Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Gotta do a burn. I'm kind of intimidated by it.
Ooh, your first burn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scared because I did burn down 2 acres of forest as a child or
Really?
a middle school
What?
student.
This is a story.
I'm a fire bandit.
He has a catch-22 drinking game. Drink every time a name gets mispronounced. Be drunk by the end of most episodes and hospitalized by the time you guys quit saying Caleb Farley.
Baseball strike zone is subjective. It's different for every batter.
But what I'm saying, no, it isn't. Your strike zone is your strike zone. Paul Perillo's strike zone is defined, right?
All right. You're right.
Is it?
You're right. I mean,
Why?
I don't like. I don't think it's the same. Tennis is not the same as a baseball strike zone.
About 5 minutes later.
But Paul Perillo's strike zone can be defined, right?
No.
Why can't it be?
I think Bill Russell would still be good no matter what.
Well, he's old and he's dead.
Well,
Is he old or is he dead?
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to another edition of Patriots Unfiltered. That's right, Deuce in the host chair. Fred is on vacation, but don't worry, we got the three amigos. Is that what, or PP and the Deuce with Lazar.
side
With
of
our special guest today.
The special guest
Hello.
and introducing Evan Lazar.
Yes, introducing.
Never been here before.
No,
How we doing?
it's Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium, and we're grinding through the offseason, guys. It's a little bit of Patriots news today, but otherwise I feel like we've hit the void, and this is where kind of all the draft research piles up, and silly season starts to happen. You start to get stupid rumors or things about guys getting pushed down the board.
Do we
those
have
kind of
any
things.
good stupid rumors?
No, not
Oh,
yet.
I have
I'm
one.
all
You
for
got
a,
one?
I'm
I
all
got
for a
one.
stupid rumor.
But isn't this the time usually when you hear about, well, this guy, he's
It
got
is.
a terrible attitude. Actually, I think Jordan Tyson's the one getting it right
God.
now.
Yeah.
With
He's
bad
getting
attitude.
it.
BA?
Yeah, I felt like there was a Daniel Jeremiah clip where it seemed like he was holding back a little bit, that he might be maybe a little soft. But this is whenever all that news starts coming out, the rumors trying to push guys up and down the board.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you guys. I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit antsy for the draft. But I also, this is kind of a topic, I did some show prep, Paul. Be proud of me. Like to talk about today and I think this happens every year with drafts. Like you look at it and you say, well, they need this position, and they told us they got to get a tight end, and they love the edge class. And when you really the rubber meets the road, you're like, all right, well, is this 6th round tackle pick really going to move the needle, or is this 6th round tight end really going to be what Mike Vrabel's talking about? So we can get into that a little bit about the needs and how to balance all those, lining up their needs with what's strong in the draft class. But just think off the top, Marty Mapu reportedly released this morning. So there's some real Patriots news. Ev, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I think we have been talking about linebackers as a need for the Patriots, or just at least as a position they might target to add somebody to the pipeline. And I feel like I give the same take about tight end, tackle, linebacker, safety, where it might not be a 2026 need where there's this hole on the roster, but you start to look at the ages and the wear and tear on some of the guys that are starting for this team, and you start to think about the next chapter. Mapu, obviously, it just didn't work out for him here. I would say the biggest reason being that he was probably always a linebacker. Then they try to do that whole hybrid safety thing in the old defense with Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers, and they never really developed at linebacker. So then they try to slip him back into linebacker under Gerard Mayo, and at that point, once it got to Vrabel, I think it was kind of too late, right? Like the developmental curve had kind of
Probably right.
run out, that he wasn't going to be able to do that. Now, is he ever going to be a great player? Probably not. But I think that there would have been a better chance if he had just focused on one position, and
Yeah, I think that's fair.
maybe a position that was also the one that was best suited for him, which I always thought was him playing at the second level at linebacker.
Bulk him up a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
his body type seemed a little
I think he was
off
a
for both
tweener.
sides.
Yeah, I think everything
Yep.
Evan said is more than fair. I just look at it as the athlete, I think, is what attracted Bill Belichick to him. But at the same time, you look at it and you say, well, he's a guy who did a lot of different things at at Sacramento State at a level of football. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's a little less than the SEC or the Big Ten, shall we say. So exactly where did he fit. I think he was one of those classic tweeners. But, in the bigger picture, like Evan said, you still have Spillane and you still have Ellis. But that's now 3 guys from last year's team, Tavai, Gibbons, and now Mapu, who gave you some quote-unquote depth at that position that, I'd be surprised if they didn't come out of the draft at some point with an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, to some extent, Anthony Jennings too. Not, I know what you're saying off the ball, but just second level edge defender kind of stuff.
Yeah, they signed KJ Britt, who I think is going to replace a lot of the special team stuff that these other guys have left behind, and maybe kind of like a Christian Ellis, there's more there on defense with KJ Britt and the right system, the right coaching staff. But like I said, we've been talking about these linebackers for months now. It's a good linebacker class. There's a lot of depth to it. I think where that sweet spot is an interesting conversation because, again, it's a depth pick. It's not, you're not drafting a linebacker
you're not drafting
to
a
start.
31. Yeah.
So, this week, or in September, week 1. So where do you take that? I think, there's a lot of guys there are a lot of positions that you could say, well, probably like the 3rd or 4th round, they'll take one of those. It's like, well, you can only do that you only have 3 picks in the 3rd or 4th round. So you can't do it everywhere. But when you start to look at some of the guys, we can name names and all that good stuff, but I still think that's kind of the sweet spot. I know a lot of people really like Jacob Rodriguez at the top, or CJ Allen, or Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas.
That's my guy.
Those are going to be probably top 50 guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit too early. So maybe it kind of starts with like the Jake Goldays of the world, and then kind of moves on down to, my guys like Fisher and Betcher from Oregon, and, that sort of tier. Harold Perkins maybe in there somewhere too. So I think that's kind of what you're looking at, is that mid-round range to just get somebody to add into the pipeline, not necessarily to play and start right away.
How many positions do you feel like fall under that category, though?
Like all of them. We're starting to put our big boards together, Deuce, and I'm like, I got to have a couple corners on here because it's not a top 100 need most likely, but Carlton Davis is starting to get a little bit older. That 3rd cornerback spot could probably be upgraded anyways, in terms of outside corners. No offense to Chuck E. Cheese, but like maybe you can get a little bit better there as well. And so corner is kind of one of those. Safety is kind of one of those. Linebacker is kind of one of those. Tight end is definitely one of those. Offensive tackle is one of those. Guard with, on when he was in a contract year, you never know what's going to happen with Elijah Vera Tucker in his injury history. So I just named half like 6 positions.
Right. No,
you only have 5 picks that I think are meaningful picks.
Right.
Once you get past the 4th round, we're throwing darts. We're taking lottery tickets.
You just summed up everything that I kind of teed up at the start of the show, which I think this happens every year, where especially when you look at next year's needs and you think about, Kayshon Boutte, Douglas, Hollins, all going to be free agents. Christian Ellis going to be a free agent. So on one hand, you're looking at the edge position where I think you could have immediate help. And we've talked a little bit about tight end. Maybe there's a spot to have some immediate help there. But do you look at the good positions and where you can get immediate help? Are you looking an eye ahead to next year, which I think is what the best teams do, right? That's really where they're looking at. Well, yes, at 31, maybe you get an impact player, but it's hard balance.
You need to fill the holes that you have too. Like I agree that there's a lot of, down the road, needs that they're going to have to address. But you should be able to get a guy who can play right away in the 1st round. Regardless, 3rd or 31st, you should be able to get a guy who can play. Now, I'm not talking, a 10-year starter and plug him in as a Pro Bowl or 5-time Pro Bowler. Yeah, that's a hit. But you should be able to get a guy who has the ability to play in the NFL reasonably fast. In the 1st round.
I think I kind of am settling on, and this is pretty par for the course, not like anything groundbreaking, but at 31, draft a player that's going to make an immediate impact. Draft somebody at edge, maybe playmaker, receiver, tight end, probably receiver. I don't know there's going to be a tight end there to take, but one of those types of positions that's the guy you're drafting to help the 2026 Patriots. Then once you get out of the 1st round, this is when we start to get into the conversations that we're having about pipelines and keeping
that
the
was
cupboard
my
stocked.
point. And it's just, I do remember back because, I think everybody remembers how badly the draft ended for Belichick, but there was a long stretch that Belichick and his staff did a really good job of balancing the short and long term. They did a really good job from, say, 2001, 2, all the way through,
12, 13 maybe.
yeah, it was a good stretch of, yeah, we can take a Lawrence Maroney in a year, and we have Corey Dillon, so we're sort of setting something up. But there was also guys like Logan Mankins that plugged right in and were immediate starters. Then they also, I mean, we don't have to get into a whole historical thing, but they also did a great job of finding diamonds in the rough and starters in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds like Dan Copen and Asante Samuel and all kinds of guys like that. So it's unfortunately for Belichick, the well just ran dry, and all of a sudden he didn't have it anymore. But I don't think they're in a position, say, like they were, in 11, 9, 10, 11, 12, they know they're going to win 12, 13 games. They know they're going to be in the AFC Championship game. We can take Matt Light's replacement because we don't care if he doesn't play this year and Nate Solder. Turned out that he had to play that year because they ended up having injuries, but they didn't take that player with the idea that he was going to start right away. Yeah. I don't think this team is in that spot. I don't think they're that good, quote unquote, that they can just say, well, I mean, if there was someone there that just blew them away and they didn't have an immediate need for it, sure, take them. But I don't really think that's the best course right now for the way the Patriots are situated.
I mean, I'm just thinking about which positions do you really realistically say they don't need that? They don't need that. I mean, I could quarterback, right?
Quarterback,
maybe running back. Maybe you can make an argument at running back, and maybe even and this is getting into what I want to talk about. Is like what do you put off? Do you? I don't want to say put off tight ends because Vrabel's been talking about the tight end group forever. But I find when I screw around with mock drafts, it's like you always miss Kenyon Sadiq. And then you got guys start going in the middle of that 2nd round. And, so now, I'm looking at trading up to get one of those tight ends that, before you get into developmental territory, which Evan's got a whole piece on tight ends, Paul, that I had to proofread because Fred and Ashok are out today. So it was all on me to make sure Evan nailed it.
Pressure was on.
But it was good. It was a good way to kind of regroup.
I'm not sure I'm happy with this.
I was tasked with Young Lazar's write-up. But it was really good. And it's always, what I like is, especially with the Beast coming out, is you do all this kind of draft research, and then you get like a new something to read and kind of consider. And I thought of that as your piece this morning. But it's hard to thread the needle on that position. You mentioned linebacker. By the time you get to the 4th round, it's hard to say, yeah, this guy's going to come in. And, that's why it's like I feel like the top half of the draft, you need guys to immediately fill holes. And even though they have 11 draft picks, that those day 3 guys, I think they really got to be good this year, especially looking towards next year where you're thinking about those positions that you're going to have, are going to open up. Hunter Henry, maybe they extend him, but that's a long-term need. Morgan Moses, maybe he has another full healthy season, but that's probably going to be a need sooner than later. Go right down the list. That's where it just gets hard. I think it happens every year, though. You get to these mock drafts, and you're like, well, I can't get these guys because I'm way down, and you're trading up and you're trading down and trying to make it all work.
I think that, I'm largely with Paul, and I have been this whole time, that it just feels a little bit too soon to make a luxury pick of we're going to draft and stash a guy that's really a player that we're expecting to start in 2027. I don't know if they're there yet. Now, the one exception I think to that is probably tackle, just because
I would agree.
There's just no tackles in a draft like this that after the top 40 picks, I would say that I feel great about. So if Ionic or Blake Miller or Lomu or one of those guys is sitting there at 31, that I can be talked into. But at pretty much every other position, I really don't feel that way. I think you mentioned which positions do they not need. I still don't really think corner's that pressing. Mm-hmm. I would
agree with that too.
Even if you are
probably
drafting
wait a year for that,
for like a 4th corner, like we can do that on day 3 and throw a flyer on a traits guy that's got some speed and some size and see if he develops on day 3. If they end up needing to move on from Carlton Davis, or if Marcus Jones starts to catch up, the wear and tear starts to catch up with him, I'm assuming that Christian Gonzalez is going to be here long term. you can make that pick in 2027. You don't need to make that pick this year.
I would largely agree with that. I have a question for you guys. So I agree with something Evan said a little while ago about, you have just those top picks, once you get past the 2 4th rounders, you kind of, but you have all those 6th rounders. Is that enough to maybe get another pick into the area that you deem valuable, do you think?
I think it's enough to slightly move up the board in one of those rounds, within the round. Now, are you going to create a whole new pick out of it? Probably not. But if you are looking to, let's say they're at 125 in the 4th round,
right?
If they really like somebody at the back end of the 3rd round, could they package some picks together to move up back into the 3rd round, so they make 2 picks in the 3rd round instead of 2 picks in the 4th?
I
Something
get that.
like that.
I get that. I agree with you. What I was wondering is, could you somehow package, I know I sound like a caller, and I get it. You
like
guys
the
can make
4
fun of
6
me.
round picks for
Maybe not
first
like,
round.
Is there anything that you could package to get a pick, say, around 130?
I wish I had my note card because I just did this exercise. I pulled up the Jimmy Johnson board. And
it depends on how It depends on how many
and
picks
you can
you
make
want
fun
to
of
give
me. You don't
up.
have to be nice.
No,
because I might be being like a caller here. I want to trade.
Paul, I did this exercise yesterday, so I'm not making fun of you at all. I was just, it's fun to play with those numbers to see, well, what would these 2 picks, what would the 2 4th
just when
rounders
everyone was
together
talking
get you?
about, like, it's really 5 picks. I 1,000% agree. Like, you're gonna get some backup linemen, on day 3. You're gonna get some backup defensive backs on day 3, and hopefully, if you hit it and you get a little lucky, you might get a couple of players there. But like, it's not something necessarily that you rely on. So how do you get the picks that are a little bit more reliable?
Yeah, I think there's 2 different kind of trades that I look at. One is obviously the one I just talked about, which is to trade from the 4th round back into the 3rd round, so you make 2 3rd round picks.
Yeah.
The other one that I would say is that you're at 63 in the 2nd round. If you trade 63, one of your 4ths, and 1 or 2 of your 6ths, you could maybe move from 63 back into the top 50. And now you can make a pick at 31 and a pick at 50. And I don't know about you guys, but every time, and maybe this is just my laziness, 4 6 round picks is egregious. Like, I don't even know if there's like room on the roster for 4 6 round picks.
Right.
So if you start to use those, even though they're not worth a ton, like, maybe they can be filler in a bigger trade to try to move up from the end of the 2nd to the middle of the 2nd, or the 4th back into the 3rd, or something along those lines, to kind of get in on one of these runs at one of these positions, and so you don't lose out on everybody.
It's like the quality versus quantity debate.
Exactly. The other trade thing that I was sort of wondering about, and I think Bill Barnwell wrote a little bit about this yesterday, he had kind of an interesting piece where he had every team trading in the 1st round, throughout the draft. I don't know if you guys caught any of this.
Sounds like a bar thing.
Yeah, I mean, these
are where all these
and
trades
listen,
come
I think Bill Barnwell does a terrific job. I've
Yeah.
said this many times. I'm not speaking. I think he's really, really good. I just don't have the time to read, 4,000 words on, trading from 31, down to
Put in
36,
AI, have it summation.
or whatever it is. But just the premise of trading out of that 1st round pick for the Patriots, which could give them, an additional 2nd round pick if they slid down a few spots. Maybe someone high in the 2nd round wants to get up, and maybe, and Barnwell, I think, rightly analyzes it by saying there's some value at the end of that 1st round for that 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
You get 1 extra year of control. It's not just, well, the Jets want to trade because they want to trade up and see if they can get Ty Simpson. It's not just about that. It's not just about a quarterback. It's about any player to get that additional year of control. And the Patriots may look at it and say, well, I can get maybe a 2 and a 3 to get 2 of Evans' picks that he finds some value in. And how much different is that than 31 if you slide down a few spots? I don't know.
I don't hate the 31 trade down. And this is a recurring theme for me. I feel like, Ev, I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's always like the guys I love most are going like 10 to 25 in the 2nd round. Like those, just like the middle chunk of the 2nd round always seems like there's so many, good promising players, maybe with one potential flaw, but, somebody you look at and you say, I think this guy's going to, immediately come in and develop into something. But I also just find myself wondering, like, are we underrating players that we don't know? And you mentioned cornerback. I look at like Marcellus Dial, who I thought had a good camp last year before he tore his ACL. Kobe Minor was a rookie last year who got brought up to the roster at the end of the season. You're mentioning, hey, let's take a flyer on these guys on day 3. These are guys from the last 2 years that they've taken flyers on in day
Right.
3. And then by that same token, are we sleeping on Elijah Ponder or Braden Swinson? Are we not giving them the credit that maybe the team is giving them, saying we think Elijah Ponder is going to come in and be part of a really good 3-man rotation with Harold Landry? That's where I'm trying to figure out what's the truth. What do they really actually need?
No,
What is the
it's fair. I look at Dial and Minor both. They like him as special teamers.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see having, but I mean, you're right. We don't know. I don't know that. I mean, that's just the way I look at it.
I mean,
But
Dial
maybe they
a
look
slot
at it.
guy probably.
Yeah,
and,
but
not gonna
Dial to me is a 4th or 5th cornerback
Yeah.
that can play in a pinch on defense, but is
And
going
his
to
reputation was as an excellent special team player,
Yeah.
not just a guy who played special teams, but he was really good at what his role was.
Yeah, he was projecting towards maybe competing a little bit for snaps at corner before he got hurt in camp last year. So it's possible, but just quickly on the trade down out of the first round, if we just play a little bit of make believe here for a second, if you trade out of 31 and you trade with the team, I don't know if you're doing it in the division, but the Jets.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that Barnwell had.
The Cardinals, teams like that need a quarterback. They want to come up to draft Ty Simpson, and they want to, get to the front of the line, get that 5th-year option on Ty Simpson. Can you get a pick in 2027? Because if you can get a pick in 2027 out of this trade, there's a certain receiver in Philadelphia that might be available post June 1,
Right.
and now you have extra ammo to put that pick that you got from the trade down in the trade for A.J. Brown. And so now you're not giving up one of your own picks maybe for A.J. Brown. You're giving up somebody else's future 2027 pick. So I think for a lot of reasons, a trade down makes sense because if you can get something in 2027, it's just supposedly a better draft, which I think are always valuable picks. But also, if you're thinking still about A.J. Brown, then maybe you have extra ammo to go get A.J. Brown with the 27 picks by adding 27 picks. So I don't even know if you need to trade down necessarily to have like the prize of the trade be a 2026 draft pick. I'd kind of almost rather it be a 2027 draft pick at that point. Not
I'm
saying
interested in all those scenarios.
it can't be a 2026 at all, but I just think that the 2027 picks are going to have a little bit more value for those couple of reasons.
But along those lines, is there a wide receiver that could be there at 31 that would make you say, we can put off this A.J. Brown thing? We got a guy that maybe it's not going to be the immediate impact that a veteran like A.J. Brown might have, because it's hard to see it in that range that there would be a guy to take him off the board for that.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at positions, like which positions would move the needle the most if you drafted them there, edge rusher and receiver are the two. Like, we can talk ourselves into tackles and stuff like that as a developmental need to replace Morgan Moses. But if you're looking for a player that come in and help the 2026 Patriots and move the needle the most, it's those two spots. At wide receiver, I think that, Denzel Boston's a guy I've sort of gone back and forth with. I've struggled with Denzel Boston.
I'm sure you did. He's not your kind of guy.
He's not. And I've sworn off those types of players. I've been burned. I've been hurt in the past by that exact archetype, that exact
I want to get
mold.
hurt again.
But is he closer? And this is what I kind of grapple with. Is he closer to the Drake Londons and the Tet McMillans than he is to the Keon Colemans and the N'Keal Harrys?
Yep.
And if you think that he's closer to that top end of that spectrum, then he's worth a first round pick. Because I don't think he's quite as good as those two, especially after the catch and the build up speed and all that kind of stuff. The guy I compared him to is more of like a Cortland Sutton, who's a nice player, but probably not a number one big time difference maker like Tet and Drake London. But if he fits that for you, I think we've talked a lot about size on the outside and getting a guy down the field that can win the ball for Drake May. And there's something enticing about May growing with the player.
It's appealing to me.
Yeah, as opposed to, it's almost like a mercenary thing that they're doing right now with, it would be Diggs for a year, and then it would be A.J. Brown for a year or two, and then it would be the next guy. And is that really the pattern you want to get yourself into with Drake May, where every 1 to 2 years his number one receiver is changing and it's somebody new? Now you have to hit on the pick. Like, you can't just say, let's just do it to grow together. It sounds great in theory, but if it's Jalen Polk, then it's not going to work, right? So you have to be right.
That was my snarky response to Mike.
Yeah.
Like last week or a couple weeks ago. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
If it works.
Yeah. Casey Concepcion is my type of guy.
Yeah.
Maybe Romeo Dobbs bumps outside a little bit more than we
I
expected.
like Omar Cooper too.
Yeah, he's
along those
really
lines.
good too.
Yeah.
All those guys I think are in shouting distance. Are they all going to make it to 31? No, but one of them probably will.
Not to jump into emails too soon, because we, per Fred's usual, order of events that have to happen, we have to set the table first. I'm not sure the table is quite set yet, but I'm going to hop into this. I thought it was an interesting email from Chris. It just says, hey guys, it seems like a lot of analysts think Concepcion is out of the question at 31 should he fall because the style of play overlaps with Dobbs. Could having guys that overlap like that create more versatility organically as opposed to a guy like Brazel or Boston that will come in and strictly play one spot? Also, one guy I would like you to look into is Josiah Green from Duke, high character, high motor guy, and he's also my wife's cousin.
I was going to say, generally, I'm not interested in the high motor guys, especially at skill positions. But in this case, I will make an exception.
Oh, he's a DT. He's a defensive tackle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that, I
thought we
think
were
kind
talking about
of
wide
sums
receivers.
up what we. And I would say that I don't think Boston would be confined to just outside. Like I think they
No.
could move him around a little bit.
Matt Collins-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe
along
play
those
some
lines, but.
tight splits. Some
But I do
slot
get it.
reps,
I do
things
get,
like that.
before the Dobbs signing, Concepcion was a very popular Patriots
A lot of people
still
have
love
said that.
Concepcion,
I
yeah.
know Evan said it immediately. There might be some duplication. If you think he is good enough, I like Concepcion a lot. I liked him watching Texas A&M during the course of the season, just the impact that he made on games. He was one of those guys that when you watch them play, he impacted the game pretty much every time. I would take him if you think he's that kind of a player. Whether or not it happens immediately with him and Dobbs together, it might take you a little while to figure that out. How they, Evan just said, maybe Dobbs could move and play a different role. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly did in Green Bay. Like, this is, I think we see Romeo Dobbs as, kind of in that bigger Z slot kind of mold, kind of like a Jacoby Myers type of player. But he does have that ability to play on the outside. He did it in Green Bay. Now, not necessarily all the time, all the way outside, but it's, semantics. Casey is one of my favorites. I mean, he's probably the best pure separator in the draft. Like, just the guy that creates the most separation on his routes. I don't think that there's any doubt that he's at least at the top of that list. The drop rate is something that people bring up and are concerned about, but to me, like, the drops happen in the high traffic areas over the middle of the field where maybe he hears some footsteps and stuff like that, and kind of alligator arms one here and there. I don't look at his hands as like, I don't think he has bad hands. I think that he's a guy that's a high volume guy that sees a lot of targets and a lot of chaos. And so every once in a while he drops a pass. I don't look at his hands as bad. His contested catch rate is 66%, which normally tells you that he's pretty good finishing through contact and that type of thing. So I'm not overly concerned about it. He's just he's 6 feet 190, 195, somewhere around there. So he's an inside guy. He's a guy that needs to play off the line, play in the slot, do that sort of thing. I don't think that he's your true X, but other than that, I think he's one of the best in this class. And I think that he's probably closer, honestly, and for a lot of people, to the Mekhi Lemon, Tyson Tate tier than he is to like this next tier. People just have concerns about the drops.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me a little 2011 when they got rid of Moss, and then they had, or was it 2010? Sorry, the Branch and Welker, who I always thought were kind of similar players. Didn't really have a big outside guy. Figure they can move, guys around, but I continue to wonder, are we going to come out of this draft and be like, well, they're definitely getting A.J. Brown because they didn't touch wide receiver. Like, and even if they did touch wide receiver, I don't know if it necessarily precludes them from getting.
No,
because
mean,
they still have a need next year.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you'd be able to do both. But yeah, I mean, if they don't take a wide receiver in the first, say, 3 picks, then I think you could write that story then that A.J. Brown's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wonder what they took a 3rd round pick on Kyle Williams last year and another mid-round draft pick at that position on a guy that just, has, Kyle Williams obviously has really good speed, really good release ability. Like, that's a trait of his, but he's not somebody that had a well-rounded skill set that was going to go higher up in the draft. That's what you're going to find in that range of the draft is guys that have one really high-end trait that you're hoping can kind of build a
Tooley instead of Toolsy.
yeah, right. And like you're gonna get like your Striblings, your Bryce Lances, like guys that can get down the field, Ted Hurst maybe, which is exciting, but it's kind of like redundant to me, like to what they already have. Like how many more times are you kind of gonna just throw like a dart at somebody in the third round and expect that guy to turn into your guy? Like that just doesn't really happen very often anymore. Maybe like it did once upon a time, but now that the receiver position has been pushed up the board so much, it feels like you have to kind of draft that guy early in order for him to really turn out to be. I know everybody always goes back to the 2019 draft and is like, well, they got Terry McLaurin, and,
Right.
and it's like, I just don't see that happening around the league very often anymore, because I think teams realize now how important that position is. And so the Terry McLaurins are just not lasting.
I just don't want to lose the plot with this team. That's why I felt coming into the offseason that the needs were so obvious, and they made some signings in free agency, a lot of 1-for-1. So the holes aren't necessarily apparent. Nose tackle maybe being another position we haven't even talked about, that really one of the only spots they didn't 1-for-1. And that's another spot where are we day 3? Are you going to get, I mean, I know the big guys, like sometimes they last that long, but I just finding myself regrouping, like, what is this team's biggest need right now? Like, what is going to hold this team back, and how can you solve that problem or attempt to solve that problem in the draft, if you even can?
I still think it's probably passing game offensively, whether it's offensive line or receiver.
Yeah.
But with the offensive line, I think that you're hoping for internal growth, and I don't know what the other path is. Like, I think you're just hoping that Campbell gets bigger and stronger and better. Jared Wilson moving to center helps. Vera Tucker going in at guard helps. And you're just kind of hoping that all of those moves kind of add up to a better product, when it push comes to shove, when the competition gets ramped up. At edge, I think that there's what they think of Harold Landry's status, I think, is the most interesting thing there. I think they kind of, in my opinion, they sort of know what Elijah Ponder is. I think he's probably a third pass rusher, play on third down, play in special teams. If you're expecting an undrafted rookie to be more than that, I think you're asking a lot. If they feel like they can get a full season out of Harold Landry, that is very different than them thinking, I don't know if that knee's going to bounce back, right? Like, we don't know if Harold Landry is going to be healthy. We don't know if he's going to be the Harold Landry that he was at the beginning of last season.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know if that player's still in there. If they think that they have doubts about Harold Landry and his status, then I think you almost have to take an edge early, because that player might need to start, and you're just like looking at it. That's probably the biggest starting hole if Landry's not ready to go.
Yeah. That's
So
what I was
I think your question's an interesting one, because I really think when you said, what's the biggest hole, what might hold them back? And I think if you look at everything right now on paper, it's very similar to what you went into the season with last year.
Yep.
There's different names in different spots, and, guys have come and gone. And I don't think there is like an enormous hole really anywhere. I think Evan's right. I think edge is probably the biggest one in terms of starter. I worry more about the passing offense, just the way he said. The question is, it worked out last year, sort of having these kinds of holes. And everybody said, what was, I think all three of us to individually all said what to the following question: what is the biggest concern? Depth.
Yeah.
Never really materialized.
Yeah. Well, they're the healthiest team in the league.
Because, they had some guys that, quite frankly, played a little bit better in depth roles than maybe we thought. Christian Ellis, Jack Gibbons, some guys like that. Even a guy like Charles Woods, I think, contributed at times.
So getting all Morgan Moses, all games played.
But they didn't really have that depth tested that much.
Yeah.
That's probably unrealistic. So you ask, what hole, what could hold them back? What could be their demise? And I would say that is probably it. Depth.
Yeah. And
I still think the roster lacks depth.
especially on the offensive line, where they signed James Hudson, who, has been a swing tackle in the league, but
tackle's tough.
he's right now your third guy up. And Ben Brown has filled in at those spots. So, you do have an interior backup, but those are really the two guys. I mean, Caden Wallace couldn't really even make it into a game last year, and then I still have needs at right guard behind Michael Onwenu for next year when his contract's up as a potential replacement, and then the Morgan Moses of it all. But to Evan's point, you're Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Morgan Moses injury away from at this point really scrambling, and I don't even know how much a rookie third-round pick
Right.
is going to make you feel all that much better at both spots.
In the interior, I think you could get away
Ben
with
Brown's
starting
okay,
a rookie there, or Ben Brown goes in and the rookie's now backing up instead of that, that sort of thing. But tackle right now is a little bit scary, and that's why we talk about tackle at 31, is because drafting Ionichor there isn't just about the future. It could, if somebody gets hurt,
Could be now.
It could be now, and it could be now quickly. And he would probably have a very, very inside track, or him or Miller, whoever, to being the top swing tackle. And if either one of those guys gets hurt, then it's going to probably be the rookie that gets the call. If you wait on it, I do think that you're looking more towards the developmental side of things, and drafting guys like Markel Bell, or Crownover, or Bowery, or any of those guys. I think you're talking about their ceiling being swing tackle, not just that they are not ready, but also I'm not really sure I feel comfortable saying that they're going to be starters in the league. Like, they probably are destined to be like third tackles, which is nothing wrong with that. But if somebody goes down for a considerable amount of time, and you lose somebody for the season, now you're asking a rookie that you kind of projected to be a third tackle anyways, now he's got to start 10 games or start in the playoffs or something like that. It's a lot to ask for. So that's why tackle at 31 makes a lot of sense. I think guard, especially when you start to bake in all of the tackles that are going to be guards because they have short arms that are going inside from college, like in the middle rounds, like it gets beefy there.
And they made a little bit, I mean, maybe not, a huge investment per se, but they made a commitment to Ben Brown. So they probably feel pretty good about him backing up any of those three spots.
Yeah.
So I'm not as worried about that now. If they were to say goodbye to Michael Onwenu, which I still think could be on the table, then that will be a different story. Then depth everywhere is a concern.
Right.
But right now, I'm with you guys. The tackle, James Hudson is an NFL player, and I think he could replicate, close to what Vidarian Lowe gave them. But if something were to, you lost Will Campbell for 4 games. What happens if you lose him 4 games into the season, and now we got to go to the balance? We saw, I thought Vidarian Lowe played really well, but you saw it kind of. I think by the end of those 4 games, he was kind of holding on a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know if James Hudson would make you feel any better than you did with Vidarian Lowe.
No, you can't fix everything, and that's what and you have to prioritize, and that's why I guess Paul, you've always kind of said it, like on day 3, you're not really gonna expect anything out of these guys.
You're looking for special teamers.
Sometimes you get a surprise. Maybe in the interior offensive line, you get a surprise. Maybe that seems like a spot. A position where sometimes you get those guys, but
like taking Tom Brady out of it, and even Julian Edelman to an extent too. Like Onwenu is the best case scenario, I think, on day 3. Like a starting caliber guard in the 6th round is
right out of the chute.
Tough to do. But I think he got drafted there because of his weight. Like I don't think he got drafted there because of the tape. I think teams were afraid of his weight and of his movement. But Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, like those guys were 6th round picks for different reasons. Like that's kind of what you're hoping to get. You're not now. I think inside the top 150, you can hit. Like Craig Woodson looks like he might be a hit as a 4th round pick. At different positions, guards, tight ends. Tight end usually you bet on somebody that's big, tall, and fast, and you hope that it works out. And a lot of times it does. Sometimes you get George Kittle out of that, Travis Kelce, like those types of players. So those are the positions that if there is going to be guys that fall through the cracks, it's usually interior offensive linemen, tight ends that are just toolsy, raw athletes that develop in the NFL, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always looking at guys in that area that, Belichick used to say, like, 3rd rounders are like 1st rounders, but they have something on the draft card that prevented them from going in the 1st round, whether it be an injury, whether it be an off-field concern. He always used to say 3rd rounders had 1st round talent, but there's a reason that no one wanted them in the 1st round. And I'm always sort of looking at guys like that in those middle rounds, the day 3 guys. Kayshon Boutte is an example of it.
Yeah.
You know, he was, he was the big thing when he was a freshman, and all of a sudden, a couple of years later, he wasn't the big thing anymore. He had fallen out of favor. And I'm not saying that that's like, well, you got Justin Jefferson in the 6th round with Kayshon Boutte, but you got a serviceable NFL player who is a solid member of your wide receiver core in the 6th round.
Mm-hmm.
Those I gravitate to those guys. Why? Why is that guy available still? And then, in turn, you have to have good in-depth scouting and conversations about whatever the reason is that guy's still available. Is that worth overlooking, or is that too big of a risk to overlook?
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by those guys, especially skill guys.
Yeah, there's a couple that
yeah.
immediately come to mind. Different parts of the draft, but in that 3rd, 4th round range, like Harold Perkins to me is just super intriguing.
He's a really good player.
I don't know what he is. Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Is he a nickel? I don't know, but he's a hell of an athlete.
My boy Mike Giardi loves him.
Yeah.
He was talking about last week.
It's easy to see why. I mean, he's 225 pounds. He's running a 4.3. Like, that's, if you get him with the right coaching staff and the right system defensively that can sort of figure him out, then like he could be a hell of a player. Early on in his career at LSU, they tried him as a pass rusher. He was a little too undersized for that. Then they tried to move him to this star role that they have there, in the slot and kind of, box safety slot defender type of role. That seems to be like what his future is. And I think that he's just got tremendous upside. The guy that I was thinking, in the pass rush later on is George Gums Jr. from Florida, who played 3 different positions at Florida. They couldn't figure him out either. He played a little tight end. He played a little bit off ball, a little bit on the ball. But he's got, those explosive movements of a pass rusher that should be able to get after the quarterback. He was just late to it. He tore his meniscus at one point, and his career just never materialized at Florida. But if you get your hands on him now and develop him now from where he is as an rush linebacker type, like he's got great athleticism, great tools. Those are the types of guys that on day 3, I'm all for, especially, I know it's easy, but like from those big programs, like you're talking like LSU, Florida, Perkins was the next guy. Like he was supposed to be the next star defensive player. I think he wore number 7. Like he was supposed to be a big deal at LSU. Those guys are 5-star recruits and blue chip talents. Their careers, like Kayshon Boutte, it just didn't go great for whatever reason.
It puts some pressure on you, but if you can find out and get comfortable with the reasons, I think there's some value there for some of those guys.
I mean, I don't know anything about those guys off the field. You mentioned the beast. I'm sure we'll get that and figure it out. But those guys were more about positions, injuries, like just kind of just didn't really figure out their home in the defense quick enough for them to sort of develop their the technical aspects and the nuances of those positions. So you hope that now that you say, hey, we're going to draft you, George Gums, and you're going to play linebacker, outside linebacker, you're going to rush the passer, and then you hope that allows him to focus in on one spot and develop.
Well, that's my question: is do you think that this defense that Vrabel, Terrell Williams, Zach Core are running has that kind of flexibility to maybe blur the line between, because we're talking about they have long-term need at linebacker, they have long-term need at safety. Some of those guys, I mean, in the past with Bill, you knew that those positions, you had very specific types, right?
Yeah.
And now with this system, would you see a guy like him fitting in? Like, Perkins, is there that flexibility within this system to take a chance on a smaller linebacker or a bigger safety?
I think Perkins in this system would be a weak side linebacker, like in Christian Ellis's spot. And, that would be a guy that can cover, can go sideline to sideline, maybe blitz a little bit. He has that pass rush background, and they'd put him in these like blitz spots at LSU where like he was in like a staggered stance and you knew he was blitzing. It was kind of bizarre. Like there was no disguising it whatsoever. And so now you get into an NFL defense and you think, okay, we'll drop guys out and we'll rush him and we'll kind of dress it up a little bit for him and maybe give him some clear runways to the quarterback. That type of thing, I think, is where he would fit in, and I think he'd fit in great, but he's not, in my opinion, like a green dot kind of guy. Like, he's not going to be a Mike linebacker that's going to be Robert Spillane and run the whole defense and do that sort of thing. He's your, off the line, weak side, playmaking linebacker that's going to make splash plays while a guy like Spillane is doing the dirty work and cleaning up the trash. So that's not, you need both. Like, it's not a bad thing, but that's how I would view him. You know, at safety, I think that they want guys that can cover.
Yeah.
Like, they want, guys that can cover the back end, that have a lot of range, that have a good burst to the football, like that sort of thing. I don't think that they're looking for Kyle Duggar. They're looking for guys that can play on the back end.
All right. Well, I think we set the table there. Hey, looking for fresh new furniture before next season starts? Bob's Discount Furniture has tons of in-stock styles that ship fast, so you can get game day ready in no time. Shop Bob's for wow-worthy prices on everything from featured packed reclining sofas and modular sectionals made for winning watch parties to trendy bedrooms and top-rated mattresses designed to help you rest up before your next football marathon. So stop in or shop online and get more for less with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots, and of course, the official sponsor of the studio where Paul gives his preseason insights. Which we'll be back this year, Paul. Right? We'll get you're not going on any trips this year, are you? No, there's no need to call in.
Well, I haven't seen the schedule yet, but I think I'll be all right. I think I'll be all right.
Hopefully, no prime national.
Right.
I need all three. Thank you for thinking of me, Evan. I appreciate it.
Well, we were talking.
I'm thinking to myself, I don't want any primetime preseason games. Those are the worst.
Well, we had some mention of wide receivers, so you know what that means. Eldred calling in. What's up, Eldred? Where are you, bud?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing? No, like I told, I think that's Chris is in the background back there, Alex one. I'm at home. I've been home for a while. Had a little health scare.
All right.
So I'm going stir crazy for being at home. That's for sure. But
Hope you're doing all right.
that, I'm doing fine.
All right.
Hey, it's a couple of rumors that we hearing in North Carolina, some of those Pats fans. So we wondering about the rumor that we heard is they're not really trying to sign Gonzo yet, that they might be in talks, but they fear is trading for AJ and letting Gonzo go, trade Gonzo, because if AJ comes, he's going to demand another contract at 29, going to be 30, and we don't think that's a damn good idea. I'd rather keep Gonzo, but
Interesting.
So what do y'all think? Have y'all heard anything like that? But that's what we're hearing down here.
Yeah. I don't know.
This
Thanks,
is I think Greg Bedard has sort of floated out the succession theory of if A.J. Brown comes, they may want to put off Gonzalez for a year. I think they still, Greg, I think, still thinks that the team strongly believes in Gonzalez and wants to keep him long term. But his theory that he's floated, I'm not necessarily saying I adhere to it, but this is what he was basically saying is if Brown comes for $30 million, it's going to be hard for them to then hand over something in the neighborhood of $30 million annually to Gonzalez. So they want to wait another year, which they could, just because guys like Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley have re-upped at cornerback after their third year. Doesn't mean that everybody has to do that. So that would push everybody back a year. Now, the problem with that theory
Gonzalez might be happy.
well, that's one problem with it, but I think there's a bigger problem with the theory because does it then push back Drake May?
Right.
Yeah.
So Greg was sort of theorizing that it would be Brown, then Gonzalez, and then May. Again, fourth year for Gonzalez, it would be the fourth year for May instead of the third year where you could first start doing that. I think that's a really dangerous game to play for the reason that Mike just said. Number one, it's
upset the player.
You run the risk of alienating your best defensive player, and you're not really going to play this Russian roulette game with your quarterback, are you? I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I think that there have been times over the years that we've been a little critical of the Patriots and their ability to re-up these guys. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember, as the kids like to say, when it was Chandler Jones, Dante Hightower, and Jamie Collins all coming up at the same time, and to a lesser extent, Malcolm Butler.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, they'll re-sign those guys. And they ended up like, they basically held on to Hightower.
Yep.
That was it.
And even let him go to the Steelers.
Right. They let him go out and look.
Yep.
And I think he failed a physical, and that's why he ended up staying here.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think this is different. I think when you're dealing with Drake May and a franchise quarterback, I don't think that you can do that. So I think at some point Gonzalez will get done this offseason. In addition to the the A.J. Brown, because I do think A.J. Brown, I think Eldred's right. Some of the reports out of Philadelphia have indicated that Brown's going to be looking for a new deal.
Yeah.
You know, but
Aren't they all?
Yep, exactly, Ev. I think you can get by with Brown because it's a short-term thing. It's only a couple of years.
Right.
So I have faith. Maybe I'm foolish to have that faith, but that's what the theory that I think that Eldred's probably referring to is Greg Bedard has everybody pushed back a year, which I do not like that theory at all.
Well, what do you think about the timing right now with Gonzalez? Is this, I mean, are we in
I
the
think we're
window
all
where it
being
should
a
happen?
little,
Or?
little impatient with Gonzalez
Yeah.
right now. Like they're not. There isn't really a deadline for them to do this.
No, a lot of them happen in the summer.
Right. And so I understand that everybody kind of wants this. Obviously, we all want to keep the player, and everybody wants this to get done. So that I would love for it to get done, so we stop talking about it and getting asked about it. But like, I don't like confuse inactivity on the negotiation with them not wanting to sign him long term, because he's under contract, so there's no like rush to get him an extension. He's under contract. The extension's not even going to kick in until 2027 anyways, because he's going to play on the last year of his rookie deal, and then it will be extended on top of that. So like, I just think that there's a lot of time still that they have. You know, Sauce Gardner and those guys, I don't know about Stingley, but like a lot of those guys signed their contracts in like August.
Yeah.
When
A
training
lot
camp
of these things happen in the summer.
you
You're
know,
absolutely right.
rolls back around and everybody gets back in the building and that sort of thing, and they get it across the finish line and they sign the contract. I understand it's hanging over the Patriots right now, but I'm not sweating it at all. Like I don't think that they're in any rush, nor should they be, to like, we need to do this today. Like I don't think it's like that.
Well, just along those lines, this is a question I have for you guys. Next year's free agency group, and this might be a partially incomplete list, but I would just throw this list out there and ask you guys if there's anybody that you would realistically consider trying to keep around or maybe giving an offer to. Keyshawn Boutte, Hunter Henry, Demario Douglas, Mike Onwenu, Matt Hollins, Christian Ellis, Bryce Behringer, some of the depth guys, Farms, Pettis, Kevin Byards on a one-year deal, Jesse Lucetta, KJ Britt, Corey Durden. I mean, Corey Durden might be the most interesting name on that list to me in terms of, and I don't know what that says about that list, but is there anybody on? I mean, I haven't heard any. We haven't gotten any calls about extending Keyshawn Boutte. You know, I mean,
I'd
who's
be
been
interested
good
in a
little
lot of
player.
those veterans, but based off of what I see this year. You know, like Kevin Byard's on a one-year deal. Does he turn in another year like he did last
Yeah,
year for
right.
Chicago? Because
Sounds
I'd be interested in re-upping that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
My guess right now, probably going to move on from both of them
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of think it's going to go the other way. But, you know, Keyshawn Boutte, what if Fred's right? And Paul, Mike, and Evan are all wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd re-up that.
Yeah.
If he's got another gear to get to.
Yeah.
If you think that though, then you should do that now, because
Right.
if he goes out and has an 1,000-yard season next year, then he's going to be asking for $20 million a year.
Right. But
You
if
know.
he does it, I would want to give it to him.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I look on Henry and Onwenu. Like Henry, if they draft the tight end this year, and Henry comes back with the understanding that that tight end is probably going to chip away at some of his playing time, but he's still going to have a contract. He's still going to have a role, and maybe he's more of a second tight end pass game player, and the rookie is the one that's doing a lot of the dirty work and heavy lifting. I could be convinced into that. That's a good second tight end, when you're in certain packages and stuff like that. Onwenu, I think, is a really good player. And if he can keep his weight down and keep himself, in shape and all that kind of stuff, I see his type of game aging well, because I don't think you might lose a little bit of foot speed, but you're not going to lose power.
That one's the toughest one for me, Ev, because everything you said about him as a player, I would agree with. He's in the $17 to $19 million range right now. It ain't going to go down. If he has another good year, like Evan just talked about, he's going to want a contract similar or more than that. And I don't know if I want to pay a guard that much. I just, it's just a me thing.
Yeah.
Like, I have these hang-ups. Like, I just don't think the guards are as important as the tackles.
Well, you got to pick a spot. I mean, you can't give everybody every position the highest paid. And I mean, for guards, you found him when you were in the 6th round. Like, that it's one spot, and I always go back to the poor right guard spot. Like if you had to pick one position on the roster that you have to try to figure out how to fill, like a right guard would probably be it for me. Like you can find a right guard. I feel like.
Well,
Generally speaking.
I just
Belichick
think
said that to me.
I think
in
I
those
know.
exact
How does that
words.
go? Like I think that's the fear, the risk that you take with those types of things, though, are like, oh, we'll just draft another one in the 4th or 5th round and it'll be fine.
And then all of a sudden you draft Cole Strange and you're not fine.
Right. Exactly. And so like that is what happened to the Patriots at the end, is that they thought that they were just going to draft him.
But that was the funny part about it. Bill had this philosophy of, and this goes back in fairness to Bill, it went back a long way.
And it worked for a long time.
And it was, I believe it was the year Steve Hutchinson was in the first round. That's how long, we're probably going back 20 years.
Yeah.
And I asked him, kind of, after the press conference said, this is back when we used to be able to sort of, you get the guy in the side a little bit and maybe ask him. And I was like, why is it that this guy is a generational guard and guards don't go in the first round?
Mm-hmm.
And he just looked at me. He's like, well, and he gave me a lot of Billisms. And then he goes, but bottom line, Paul, is like, you can always find a guard.
Yeah.
And then, you fast forward 10 years later and we're franchising a guard and we're giving a different guard, this multi-million-dollar extension. So the two of the 5 most expensive guys on the roster were Shaq Mason and Joe Tooney.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the guy who told me you could always find a guard.
I think the guard position has changed slightly from what it used to be because of how many good interior pass rushers there are in the NFL. And so the defensive tackle position is maybe fizzling out a little bit now. This draft is not particularly good, but
no,
it has been maybe one of the deepest and best position groups in the league for the last, let's call it, half decade. If you have your Aaron Donalds rushing on the other side, well, somebody's got to block Aaron Donald and keep him away from Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Somebody's got to block, all these guys, Jalen Carter, Chris Jones, go down the list. So because of that, because of this sort of resurgence or whatever you want to call it of interior pass rushers, now the really good pass blocking guards have become more important. And so you see that being valued a lot more, guys going in the first round of the draft now pretty routinely. Like I think this year there's probably going to be a couple, obviously Vega's going to definitely go in the first round, but like Basantes might go in the first round also, Pregnon might go in the top 40. So I think that position, not saying that it's still analytically probably one of the least valuable positions in football, but when you look at it,
you need it.
And when you look at it from a coaching angle,
Yeah.
when you have Byron Murphy and those guys in Seattle coming after Drake May in the Super Bowl, well, you want to have some guards that are capable of blocking those dudes, and it ain't easy.
It ain't easy. We saw that. Let's jump back to the phones. Zach, New Hampshire. Hey, Zach. Zach. Once, twice.
Can you hear me?
Hey,
Yes.
There you are. What's up, Zach?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Was just wondering if you saw the clip of Daniel Jeremiah talking about Jordan Tyson. He did not seem very excited about him
Yeah.
and his toughness. And I know Vrabel doesn't like the soft tissue injury guys.
Sure.
I was just wondering if he fell like pretty crazy on draft night. Do you think the Patriots would pass on a guy of that talent level?
It's a good question, Zach.
I don't think he'll drop very far either.
Yeah. This feels like one of those things we're trying to drum up some, or maybe just something that a scout came upon during the process, and now that's getting the focus on it, right?
Yeah, I just like, Vrabel doesn't like guys with soft tissue injuries. But you know who does? John Harbaugh. He loves guys that pull their hamstrings all the time. Like
This
like
is
Lamar.
also like, and I'm not, maybe there's some truth to it. Certainly there was some undertones with Christian Gonzalez last summer that would maybe hint towards it. But doesn't this all relate back to things that happened in Tennessee, where the Tennessee reporters claimed that Vrabel was anti-soft tissues and hamstrings?
Oh, I
and,
believe that Vrabel gets particularly annoyed with soft tissue injuries. I believe that wholeheartedly. Knowing Mike a little bit,
I believe that it could be
I believe
true.
that all football coaches probably say,
Rub some dirt on it and get back
you
in
missed how many games with a hamstring? I believe every coach that I ever had would be like, I mean, okay, you tore your rotator cuff. Take the year off. You pulled your hamstring and you're out for 2 months? But it's a serious injury. But I think coaches in
believe it
general
could
have
be
that
true.
mentality.
I believe it could be true. I have not heard any hard reporting or
No.
Mike Vrabel saying it's true.
I agree.
So
I
we're
agree.
just kind of assuming, which I get that's what we do. With Jordan Tyson, there's two camps with Jordan Tyson right now. One camp is saying that he played through the hamstring injuries last year and played pretty well and toughed it out for the program. The other is saying that he's charm and soft. Like there's probably the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But like I think and this is a part of this season that kind of bugs me a little bit. One is anonymous scout season where like it's just and I love McGinn. I think he does a great job and he's the Grim Reaper. You don't want McGinn calling about a player that you like or writing about your player because he's about to find out all the dirt, right? Bob McGinn does a great job, but the other side of that is like all it takes is some guy to get like rubbed the wrong way with an interaction with Jordan Tyson, or maybe he went to his pro day and Jordan Tyson didn't work out at the pro day, and because he schlepped all the way to Arizona State and didn't see Jordan Tyson,
That's a great point.
now he's mad about it. And to me, that element of it I think is crazy. Like if you are upset because you had to travel, which is your job, to the pro day and Jordan Tyson didn't participate, and now you're going to hold that against him and like leak to the media that he's like this bad dude. Like that to me is not great. So I just take all that stuff with a grain of salt. Like I said, there's, Lance Zierlein does a great job with his draft profiles. In his draft profile, the blurb from the anonymous scout says that Jordan Tyson played through injuries at Arizona State. And then DJ and McGinn are saying that he, lacks toughness. And there's like that sort of issue with him. So which one is it?
Well, let's see if Danny in Daytona knows. Hey, Danny.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Hey, I just wanted to chime in. You guys had some really good points today. One question: what happened to Fred? I didn't get to hear what you guys said.
Yeah, it's just
it was time.
It's time. No, he's out. We think he's on vacation. We believe so. Yeah, we don't know where. Parts unknown.
Okay.
He's a very private man all of a sudden. He doesn't let me know what's going on.
It's a pickleball vacation.
What's up with that?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
I'm just letting everybody know now because I'm not as private. I will not be on Thursday's show. I have a thing.
Oh boy,
Thursday.
Yeah, see, Paul, I appreciate your courtesy. You at least tell the audience. I appreciate that.
So now you guys, it's a good time to call in. You won't have to talk over me. Good time to get involved with the show.
No, I just wanted to give you guys a couple takes. You guys had some good takes. Evan, your guy Alex and his friend had some really good takes. I was listening to the podcast the other.
And his
they
friend
had a good take. Just I think it was Sunday.
Could be any
They
of
brought
them.
up they brought up some good points, Evan. Particularly, no one is talking. Well, I've been the only person I feel like out of all the Patriots Nation that has been called, and Paul can attest this. I've been calling all season about the damn. I know, Evan, you don't like special teams and all that, but they have you. I told you I've been putting Bryce Behringer on blast all season. I've been calling. Paul is my witness. I called it.
No, you do.
All throughout the season.
Get him.
Yeah, and I put Behringer on blast. He's in the final year of his contract.
Help us with
this. I don't care whether they draft or use a UDFA. Your guy Alex was talking about that, Evan. I would prefer them to use the UDFA versus using one of our picks because we just have other needs. But there's some good punchers in this draft, in the draft and whatnot. And I think they should do that because Behringer shanked. And to Alex's point, his friend Taylor that was in the podcast, the Seahawks punter was phenomenal in the Super Bowl. It was like a video game watching him. Yep. And I think if the Patriots can find a good punter, I mean, I'm sold on the kicker. In the beginning of the season, I wasn't sold on him. He didn't seem like he was, but he clicked on towards the season as the season went on. So I'm sold on him. I'm sold on the long snapper. They need to find a punter. And the last thing I got for you guys is I think they need to get a safety. Evan, to your point, you're right. They don't need to get a corner this year, 2027, but they need to get a safety. If Woodson gets hurt, I don't like the depth that they got behind. And then the guy Byard, he's good, but he's older. I don't like the depth that they have in the safety group. So I think they need to get somebody that can play both safety and corner. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, I think with the punter quickly, like, sure, just do it on seventh round UDFA. Like I just
6
they have
round
4 6-round picks.
6-rounder
like,
right there. Is that too early for you, Paul?
I just whatever.
I mean,
like I'm not
I
even
don't care.
Right. Like I'm not trying to argue about it. Whatever.
Oh no!
But, I mean,
it's
in
a
Danny's
punter.
defense, he would
Just get your
call
camp
the
competition
post-game
on the
show
damn
all the
punter.
time, and I got an addition for the bad list. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say every game, but a lot of games.
Yeah.
Can we just get these people a camp competition at punter?
Right.
I think that
And-
should happen.
and-
Absolutely.
And get somebody that can return kickoffs.
Yeah.
So like we can stop.
We got a long snapper
about
in,
it.
right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
long
yeah.
snapper competition. Why
Yeah.
shouldn't there be?
Right. I mean, even Jake Bailey's still kicking around. It's like these guys, like the Patriots move on from them, but they continue to like.
Because there's only so many
cycle.
people in the world that
Right.
can punt
Right.
at an NFL
Which is
level.
exactly why I don't care.
Yeah.
The only
Because somebody will punt for the Patriots next year, and it will not make a difference in the season.
yeah,
Much like somebody punted last year, and it didn't make a difference in the
into
season.
the Super Bowl. The only thing with kickoff returner, because that gets brought up a lot too. I'm with you guys, but that guy has to be able to do something else.
Right.
Like I'm not drafting somebody specifically to return kickoffs, like they did with Cyrus Jones when they drafted him to return punts, and he couldn't even do that. So can we just draft somebody that plays running back that has a skill set to return kickoffs and put him in drop his name into the hat, right?
Yeah.
And see what comes out. Him.
It's another one that I just can't get worked up
Whatever.
over it. I just can't.
I mean, I was reading the stats the other day to Barth because he's, telling me how it's an important play. The difference between the best kickoff return team and the worst kickoff return team was 6 yards. Like, so we're talking
That's where
about
we
the
win.
difference.
We win in the margins.
If you're counting on
It's one less first down. You need to get in field goal range, Jeff.
yeah, Buffalo, like it
nowhere.
always gets like Ray Davis and Buffalo always get thrown back in my face. He
Ray
changed
Davis,
games.
but Ray Davis has
Plays running
value
back.
as a backup
Right.
running
That's
back.
my point.
Right,
So
right.
make Trevion Henderson the kick returner full time and
Right.
and be better at it. It's
Or-
not just about Henderson.
Yeah.
So I saw all these 50-yard touchdown runs that Henderson had last year on offense.
Yes.
You mean to tell me he doesn't have the ability to run the ball?
Yeah.
No, my guess is the kickoff return unit struggled because of the kickoff return unit, not because necessarily the guy who was doing the returning.
Yeah, I mean,
They need to be better.
there's a bunch of running backs. Adam Randall from Clemson's the one that always gets the most love.
I love when he checks his notes.
Yeah,
he literally checks
Consult
notes.
I know, because there's another one that I can't remember off the top of my head. I write it at the very, very end of their blurb is returns kicks, like just so that I know that it's in the back of my head. Obviously Adam Randall is the one that gets all the Cordell Patterson comparisons and stuff like that. Here's the other one. Damon Claiborne from Wake Forest is like 4th round pick at running back, but he can play running back.
As
You
long
know?
as he can play running back, I have no problem
Right.
with a pick like that, especially with all those day 3 picks they have.
Yeah.
No issues at all.
Just make sure that that's his secondary.
And I would also
role.
submit that I would agree with Alex. I think that was an area that they lacked in last year. I
Mm-hmm.
think the kickoff return gave them very little.
Yeah.
They had a
once
couple.
Gibson went
They had
down,
they had a couple early with Antonio Gibson, and then it kind of just dried up over the second half of the season.
I think because in some ways though, Paul, like I think that was by choice because they decided that the sacrifice of putting Travion Henderson back there on kickoff returns when they lost running back depth wasn't worth the risk. It was, the risk wasn't worth
You
the
might be
reward.
right.
Yeah.
If they had gone the whole season with Gibson and Travion Henderson returning kickoffs, it probably would have looked like it did at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean they had. He had a good one. Gibson had a good one in the opener against. I think it might have been the very first one. I think the Raiders got the ball, went down and scored, and they kicked off. And I think Gibson took it back to about midfield.
Yeah.
And then the next week, obviously,
In
he won the
Miami.
game.
Right.
Yep.
But that was kind of it.
But they were like, if Gibson doesn't get hurt, then they would have just had that all season long.
Maybe.
Like
That's a good point.
I think that they decided at some point that Gibson tore his ACL on a kickoff return in Buffalo, and they just were like, we don't want any more of our running backs getting hurt on kickoff returns. So no offense, but we're going to put Terrell Jennings and Dearness Johnston and Efton Chisholm and like those guys back there. And
They kind of punted on kickoffs too. Like they kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the wrong way to put it. They kind of punted on the kickoffs
They
and the
didn't, yeah,
kickoff
no,
returns.
they
so
didn't
punted
cover
them.
kicks great either. I agree with you.
No, at a certain point, remember they were just kicking them into the end zone. I mean, I know some of that was game related, but let's grab one more call before we take a break with Randy in Providence. Hey, Randy.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
I have to say, I called about something entirely different, but real quick, I agree with the earlier caller on the importance of, like, a good punter. I mean, I think the Super Bowl highlighted it. Like, Michael Dixon was ridiculous in the Super Bowl for the Seahawks, 3 punts inside the 10, 2 inside the 5. Like it was, he sets up difficult, good punter sets up difficult drives, and like there's definitely a difference in that. But what I wanted to ask is, there's been obviously a lot of like obsession over A.J. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., et cetera. A lot of people saying, like we need a number one wide receiver. And I just like, it surprises me that anybody could have watched the last like 25 years of Patriots football and come to the conclusion that like the Patriots offense absolutely needs a number one wide receiver to function. Like we were just in the Super Bowl without a top 10 or top 15 wide receiver. We've won several Super Bowls without that. Like in my experience, and I don't know, you guys have obviously watched as much as I have over the last 25 years, probably more, but in my experience, like this is the system that creates number one wide receivers out of guys who weren't. Welker, Edelman, guys like that. It's not a system that relies upon bringing in like these top talent wide receivers to function. And I just don't understand. Like, am I entirely off base? I understand there's evolution in the game and all that, but I mean, we've got 20, 25 years of experience of watching teams win with guys whose names you didn't know prior to the season.
Randy, let me ask you this, because obviously what happened in 2003 is a different game, right? Like that's just not what we're playing.
And those
now.
are the only 3 Super Bowls they won without a number one receiver, by the way.
Who was the last team that won a Super Bowl without a number one guy? And I say guy because it could be a tight end. So who was the last Super Bowl winning team in the NFL that won the Super Bowl this decade, let's call it, without having one of those top flight playmakers?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know the rosters of the Super Bowl winners, but I just mean, like I said, like throughout history here, like Edelman was not a top draft pick.
Yeah, but Rob Gronkowski was.
But he wasn't the number one guy.
Rob Gronkowski was the number one receiver.
He was not a top draft pick either.
He was the top of the second round pick.
Oh my God! First of all, why does the number one target have to be a number one draft pick? No one's saying that.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. We're just saying that you need to have a lead dog on offense. And I agree with Evan. I think in this day and age, yeah, you could go back to 2001 and say Troy Brown probably wasn't a prototypical number one receiver. That was light years ago in the way the game is played. Now, virtually every good team has a lead dog. I don't know if it's a first round pick or a third round. I mean, you could make an argument for you don't have to take.
Sure.
They're not all Jamar Chase and they go in the top 5.
Sure.
But,
I just bring that up.
The other thing that's completely missing from this is Tom Brady's not here anymore. So, like, you can't just make chicken salad out of,
chicken scraps.
Thank you.
That's why I compare it
Skinless
to
chicken.
Teams recently that don't have the greatest quarterback of all time. Now, the Chiefs might have the second greatest quarterback of all time, but semantics, like, going back and, and I've thought about this before clearly. Like, I think the 2017 Eagles are probably the last team that did it without like a true lead dog.
Yeah,
now,
they had a good core though.
Yeah. It was Alshon Jeffrey.
Alshon Jeffrey had a huge first half in that game.
Yeah, and Zach Ertz was a really good tight end.
And that's before Aguilar.
Gronk was, on his last leg the first time in 18, but like he was still there and he was still present.
And I don't mean like it was a really good call. I don't mean to. I forget his name. I forget his name already.
Randy calls in all the time.
No, it was a really good call, and it was a lot to digest. But to me, it's just like the punter is important. The number one wide receiver isn't. That's the argument we're trying to make here. And I'm like, I'm sorry if I can't get on board with that. Now, there's no such thing as the absolutes. Like, no one is saying you can't win if you don't have a number one receiver. No one's saying that. I'm just saying, like, most of the good teams over the last 10 years have had a lead dog.
I would say both teams. Like, the teams representing each conference usually have
and make no
that
mistake,
type of guy.
Diggs wasn't a top 10 or 15 receiver in the league last year, but he was their lead dog.
Yeah.
He's the reason why they got there. Right? In the passing game?
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's take a break. But first, Brunt Workwear makes work boots and apparel that are built for the job site and is an official sponsor of the New England Patriots and the Gillette Stadium field crew. Their gear is comfortable, durable, and named after the real workers in the trades that help design it. You can even try Brunt out on the job, and if it doesn't blow you away, they let you send it back. Save $10 on your first order at bruntworkwear.com/Pats or with coupon code PATS. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after that.
Come welcome our newest restaurant additions at Patriot Place. Estella brings a celebration of flavors with a modern fusion menu, exciting cocktails, and brunch available daily beginning at 11 a.m. Enjoy freshly brewed coffee and Mediterranean-inspired breakfast and lunch from Angel's Cafe. Craving the classics? Chick-fil-A makes it easy to grab your favorite with mobile through, carry-out, and dine-in options. Download the Patriot Place Advantage app for special offers and to earn rewards every time you visit. Patriot Place. Shop, dine, enjoy.
The heaviest metal credit card of all time. Wielded at business dinners like a samurai sword. It's a classic corporate power move. But the real power move? Having end-to-end visibility on your most critical shipments. FedEx, the new power move.
Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right.
DraftKings is all about responsible gaming. It's more fun when it's for fun. So play responsibly. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction.
The New England Patriots select
All right, it's a big day here for me because it's the front seven preview, guys. Y'all know me. I love me some defense.
It's all about Mike. I know if you ever heard, he likes defense.
I do indeed. Especially this edge class. Am I wrong? This is a really strong edge class. It's a big position of need for the Patriots. So this should be a fun one because I think really all three of these positions, I think you could see them potentially taking. We're talking, of course, defensive tackle, defensive end, edge, whatever you want to call it, Ev. Yeah. And, of course, off the ball linebacker. And I think the best place to start is with this stacked edge class. Patriots probably not going to have a shot at some of these top guys, but let's first talk about David Bailey and Ruben Bain, who, of course, you watch the national championship. Ruben Bain is a nightmare. We can talk some short arms, but at the same time, those guys going to make a big impact, I think, right away.
Yeah, I think Ruben Bain is probably the most powerful player in this entire draft. Just for sure. Cinder block hands. Obviously, the bend is something that goes around social media. Look at the shin angles. Look at the bend. All that kind of stuff is great. But just watching him a little bit, checking out Romello Height, his running mate, his wing mate there on the other side at Texas Tech. Both those guys, with David Bailey and Romello Height could really get after the quarterback too. So both these schools have bookends, right? I mean, we're going to talk about Akeem Mesidor here, I'm sure, in a second, more in the Patriots range. And he worked, in tandem with Ruben Bain, and then David Bailey has Romello Height. So some guys that interest the Patriots. But I think with those two, you just see both of those guys have extremely good explosiveness off the football. Power in Bain's case, more athleticism, I would say, in Bailey's case. So it's a good class. It's a good class.
I think the bigger question, Paul, what are we looking for in this group? There's a lot of different options, and we talk edge, defensive end, guys that can stand up, guys that are hand down. There's a wide range covered in this position group.
And I'm having a little bit more of a hard time because of, sort of been in that Belichick frame of mind for so long. It's hard because I do think Vrabel and Zach Core played the front seven a little bit differently than what I have been accustomed to
me too.
Over the years. So I'm having a hard time sort of identifying. It used to be like 6'4" guys that could run a 4.6. And they can be Willie McGinnis types on the edge. Well, as Ev likes to say, those are kind of planet players. There's not that many of them. So I think you can open up the lens a little bit more because I think the way that they played last year is a little bit more conducive to different body styles. You know, when you look and you're looking at some of these guys, and you know, I think Bain and Mesidor, you know, even though they're teammates, they're really different, and they do it a different way. Obviously, Mesidor's a little bit older too, so I think that's going to be the key for me is trying to find, do they want a guy in the first round? And then you sort of identify the guys that are in that area, Chris, and try to figure out which ones might fit best for the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Mesidor a little bit already, but I think that's my overall favorite of this edge rusher group. Yeah, I really love him as a player. I think age is a little bit of a factor for him because obviously you have your rookie contract going through the first round, starting at 4 years. So you play 4 years, you're already 29 years old, and then you're talking extension, or you talking trade value, or you talking like something like that.
Yeah.
But I think for overall balanced edge rushers, kind of what I think the Patriots need the most. I think he's a really solid piece for that, but he's got great movement to get to the quarterback. He's quick. His finesse ability is there. You know, he's a really positive edge rusher. Again, I think experience plays a big factor in that, especially playing a Power 5 ball. And Miami went deep in the playoffs this year, so I think that was important. But that's kind of my take.
If I'm just curious with Mike and you know, because Mike is the expert on defense, but I'm also interested
in a second
for you. Just like, do you think that, like, I think in the past Belichick would have maybe sort of eliminated like a pure pass rusher that just rushes the passer. Now, I don't necessarily take those guys off the board. No. What, you know, for Vrabel, is he looking for just a good player or a guy who does one thing? If he doesn't set the edges well, you know, like that would be off the board for Bill.
Yeah, I think this is the hardest part about this entire draft class at this position is it's pick your favorite ice cream flavor, right? Like, do you vanilla? Do you like chocolate? Do you like cookies and cream? Do you like coffee? What do you like? Because they have all of the different types in this edge rusher class. You got bigger guys like Zion Young or Keldrick Falk or 265 plus.
6'6" guys. Too.
Smaller guys like Cassius Howell obviously have great bend and explosiveness and playmaking ability, but they have shorter arms and are a little bit undersized for the position. So I tend to lean with Vrabel towards Harold Landry kind of being his prototype, right? I think that Harold Landry is the type of guy that he is always, you know, obviously has loved, has kept with him, you know, that sort of thing. And Harold Landry's 6'2", 250, 255. It can really rush the passer, first step explosiveness, bend, fluidity as a pass rusher, heady against the run, but that's not really, I would say, his calling card. And so I look at this class in that prism of who are the best Harold Landrys of this class, and there's plenty of them, but I would just point out, you know, right off the top, like, to me, Cassius Howell is a Harold Landry clone. I think he rushes the passer the exact same way. I think he plays the run and pass with good instincts and good feel, which allows him to kind of play the run at a pretty high level at that size, but most importantly, some of the best, you know, explosiveness, bend, fluidity, inside-out ability to get on the edges of anybody in this class. And I look at him as a player that, because of the arm length, he might fall to the Patriots at 31, but off the tape, he is a top 20 player in this class. And when you pick at the end of the first round, that's kind of what you're hoping to get. Is a guy that slips through the cracks a little bit, whether it's injury, whether it's you know, measurables or whatever the case may be, and you end up getting a top 20 talent at 31 because the guy's arms measured an inch too short.
I agree with Cassius Howell. I really like him. I'm going to kind of go a different angle with Kendrick
Falk from Auburn.
I don't know why I just blanked. I had it in my head literally a second ago. Kendrick Falk, run defender. He's a beast against the run. I think the Patriots lacked that a little bit, especially down the stretch. You saw that, especially in the Super Bowl. You saw it. And I think for the Patriots, it's important for them to, again, like I said, I think it's a balanced guy. I think you need a guy that can do both. And you mentioned the Harold Landry comp with Cassius Howell, and I agree with that one. But you have the ability to sort of grow Falk as a pass rusher as well as he is a run defender. So
he's a young guy.
He's only 20. He's a true
21. You know, he'll play at 21. I actually looked at him as a guy who might get kicked inside as a pass rusher. He's got, I think Chris is right about his run stopping ability, but
I think that's important.
I think of him as more of maybe a sub rusher inside.
I think the issue with both him and Zion Young that I have is that they're full-time role is probably going to be playing straight up over the tackle in a 5 technique with their hand in the, hand in the dirt. The Patriots did not really rush their rushers from the 5 technique a whole lot last year. They had inside guys like Barmore and Milton Williams, and then they had true outside guys like Kayvon Chason and Landry and Ponder and Jennings. So those guys, just looking at the next gen of it all, are logging snaps at 7 and 9 technique, which are all the way outside the tackle. So big guys like Falk, like Young, really talented players and like fun players to watch, have those long levers and they know how to use them. But at the same time, where do they play in a 4-man front for Mike Vrabel? Are they interior guys? Are they outside guys? They're kind of in the middle. It's not exactly the same, but just to use a more tangible comparison, like it's kind of like how they struggled with Keon White last year. Like they know that this is a talented player. They know he has something to offer, but we just don't really have a great role for him within the framework of this defense.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of the guys though that maybe could bring that on the outside. I mean, you mentioned Zion Young. He's a popular mock draft pick, but moving past him, R. Mason Thomas and Gabe Akis are 2 guys that to me play like Mike Vrabel wants.
I like both of those guys. Too.
Really hair on fire, aggressive kind of guys. I mean, Akis is 6'4", 260, so I mean he's still in that range. Maybe not quite the length of the other guys, but R. Mason Thomas is 240, so he's going to have that. And Chris, going back to what you said, you have to kind of pick what you want. I found myself gravitating towards these kind of guys that I know have some juice. We'll find someone to stop the run. I think this is Paul rubbing off on me maybe, but I really like watching those 2 guys.
But that's why I brought up the whole conundrum at the beginning, because if you're looking for more well-rounded guys, do you think that's what Vrabel wants, or are we starting to get away with that? If you have an elite skill, I think most people would say Chason last year was kind of just an edge rusher, and he made plays, against the run too. But I think that you're looking more like an R. Mason Thomas is just a guy who's probably going to be a speed guy off the edge. That's what he does, and he does it pretty well. Do you want?
And now, great moments in history.
You said it's ridiculous for anybody to have that argument.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm certainly not going to have that argument. And just be.
Well, you can be a baby.
Be dismissed as being ridiculous.
You can be a baby about it.
I'm not being a baby. You said.
I think you are.
You called it ridiculous.
I think you're wearing Depends right now.
You called it ridiculous.
I really do. I think it's time to have a change.
And this is when you
need to be changed.
This is when you know you really have Fred.
I'm going to change you. I'm going to powder you up, and then I'm going to give you a good spanking.
When Fred goes all Andy Hart, you know you got him. Bingo. My work is done.
And a man in my position cannot be made to look ridiculous.
That's another great moment from
All right, we're back, and that was Eric Scalavino, I believe.
That was the funniest thing I've ever heard him say on one of those.
You know what that's from, right?
Yeah, it was the only time I laughed at something like that.
Wow, it's Evan on Scal crime there.
Not unwarranted.
Not unwarranted. Well, we're back here on Patriots Unfiltered. You were actually watching or listening to a clip there from Patriots Draft Countdown, which if you guys want to hear draft-specific stuff, check out that show on YouTube. Here. I know we dabble here a little bit, but
this
that
has been
is
a good draft.
all
That was a good draft hour.
Yeah,
plus.
that was. And I would say the edge and defensive tackle and linebacker group that we did in that segment, which I think went about 45 minutes.
Sorry.
We probably shouldn't group all those positions together, but a good show. We got 2 more to go, and then we'll be live on April 23rd, Thursday, the day of the draft. Again, 1 to 2. Little live show. See, maybe we can get some people in here. We're all getting ready for
what
the big
day are we
night.
doing that?
Thursday, the 23rd.
It's just a little. It's
Thursday
like
the 23rd.
Yeah, it's like a little happy hour.
Little happy hour. You dress down a little bit. It's
when
casual.
Is that? What time?
Like 1-ish, 2-ish. It might be a little late for you.
You
won't get Paul's.
I think I'm on 10 to 2 that day.
So you won't
busy.
get Paul's dazzling insights, but you'll get Evan and mine, and maybe Matisse or Chris will come.
This has been it's been a stressful draft season for me.
Yeah, because it's condensed, Evan.
Because
is that
why so?
Because we were late to start.
Too many prospects at 31.
And
you can't lock in on.
I didn't go
4th overall pick.
And this is I realize
you didn't
how
go to
this
the
sounds.
Senior Bowl.
I didn't go to the Senior Bowl. So usually, the guys I saw at the Senior Bowl, I don't have to do as much work on because I learned all about them at the Senior Bowl, so I'm kind of covered there, right? If they draft one of those guys. Didn't go to the Senior Bowl, was late to it, and then they're picking 31, which is like in no man's land, where it's like, we were talking about this before the show started, Deuce, like I don't really I'm trying to fall in love with somebody at 31. and I just kind of can't.
No.
Like I just don't.
You've been on the apps, like the scouting apps.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not
swiping
like,
right.
I'm not like I'm not swiping left. Like I'm not saying no to anybody. I'm just not. I don't
Enamored,
have. Yeah, like obviously I really like Vrabel, but I understand that 31's a little rich to take a guy like that. So like I'm not really in love with anybody at 31. And that is troubling.
Do you ever find yourself falling in love with somebody, but it's not for who they are; it's who you think they could be, like your projection?
Don't try to change them, Mike.
I know
They never change.
You're like Denzel Boston. You're like, I've gotten hurt before.
You
and
like him, don't you?
I do like him.
I don't like him anywhere near as much as you do.
I know.
I don't hate him.
No.
I don't hate him. I'm not telling you
like
he's a
Denzel
stiff.
Boston.
I think he can run okay.
Denzel Boston is the type of receiver that I hate. I just like have to get over that mental hurdle of he doesn't get open, but he catches everything. Like I just have to kind of get over
It
that.
felt like he disappeared in some of their bigger games.
That's probably fair too. I really like Cassius Howell's game, but he is an outlier arm length guy again, and I just don't really feel like dealing with that whole thing.
I want to
make for a great training camp.
Stop it. You do.
We have fun here.
Though, that this is what happens.
We kid.
They draft somebody, and then everybody becomes an expert on that player in 12 hours, right? And so then on Friday, it's all of his shows and everything are just going to be, they just have a thing for the short arm guys, I guess. Like it's just going to be all of that. I don't really know if I want to do that. Like, there's no tight end really that I think is going to be in that. It just, I don't have a crush.
I have the reputation for getting into arguments before they happen.
The reputation precedes itself.
I'm not saying it's an unfair reputation.
No.
It's accurate.
You're ready.
But he does it worse than I do. Like I don't want to draft a guy.
You know for a fact.
You don't want to draft a guy specifically because of what Felger and Maz are going to say about him. You don't want to deal with that nonsense.
No, because it's not. Yes, because it's not. They start narratives. Like they start a groundswell of this,
right.
And then it becomes a thing. They do it with every sport. Like they do it all the time with the Bruins. And now, Jeremy Swayman is having this like Vezina caliber season, but because Felger doesn't like paying the goalie, the goalie sucks, right? So like it just all this.
In fairness to him, he doesn't say he sucks. He just doesn't think there's a lot of value in having
but that's
a
not how
high-paid
people
goalie.
take it. Then we get into the whole goalie thing.
If they can't understand it, then
oh god,
he's not that deep.
And
then, he's not really all that deep.
But it was back to football. If they draft Cassius Howell, and that once they find out that he has the shortest arms ever measured for an edge rusher at the combine, that's the only thing that they're going to be drilling.
They might hit him on their big board today with their throwing darts at the wall. Is that today? I think that's happening this week.
I think it's next week.
Maybe they get that. They get him there, and then
That's the other one that drives everyone crazy.
Yeah, because it just completely misses the point of the whole process.
All right. Well, I haven't been doing a great job on the emails here. I've only read one, but let's find some fun emails here for our final half hour. And
Don't limit it to the emails, Mike.
No. You want to call in too?
No, I meant you not doing a good job. Don't limit it to just the emails.
Fair enough. There's some in the comments that would agree with you, Paul. Trying my hardest
I
here.
can make fun of you. That's not right.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
They're fine.
I'll fight
It's all
them.
compliments. But I like this one from Lance in Korea that just said, he does know this question has been asked before, but I've never heard it. The Patriots have 6 Super Bowl wins. They have 6 Super Bowl losses. Would you switch them? Before you decide to switch, think about this. Grogan gets a Super Bowl ring. They beat the undefeated. Bears weren't undefeated there. So I'll correct you there. But Drew Bledsoe gets a ring against the Packers. That would have been a big one for you, Paul.
I would
imagine
definitely have switched that one.
Drake May gets a Super Bowl ring. Brady beats the Giants twice. The 2007 team has an undefeated season. The downside, Brady only has...
Brady has none.
Yeah, Brady only has
one with Tampa.
Has 3 Super Bowl rings for the Patriots.
3,
yeah.
We just said if you switch the 6 wins and 6 losses.
Right, so he would win. He would have won 07, 11, and 17, right? So he would have had those wins, and they would have 3 losses.
Moron.
Yeah.
Morons.
CT math.
Belichick only has 3 rings. There's no 28-3. Joe
That one I
Montana
don't-
is still considered the GOAT. Mahomes is considered better than Brady. It is an interesting thought experiment, though. I thought immediately
I
in
think it's
'96 with you, Paul. That would have been
fascinating.
crazy for you.
Yeah, I would. You know,
glad it worked
that
out
would
the
be the
way
only.
it did.
That would be the only one that I would. Now maybe if Drake May's career was over, I might put him in that same category. But like Drew's career is over, and he never got never got back to one, as the starter.
It's funny with the Brady ones, though, because you really don't have to do that much to imagine it going the other way. But with the 85 one and the 25 one, those are significant changes in the result of the game.
Well, if they had just scored a touchdown and when they got the ball back down 19-7 and put some pressure on
Sam Darnold. He doesn't do good with that. Keeping the things going here.
I can't believe I got it. Well, then Brady wouldn't have any.
What were you thinking there for a second, Paul?
I wasn't thinking of the 3 losses that Brady had. I was only thinking of the 6 wins. Typical Patriots fan.
I think Dustin here, though, reflects a lot of how a lot of Patriots fans feel. I truly believe Bill Belichick's last few drafts might have given fans PTSD. The what could have beens are always tough, but Mike Vrabel is not Bill. That was kind of Fred, right? He reads with that inflection. I believe he recognizes talent and the need to spend money. It's critical that he's defensive-minded, and he's a different mind, in my opinion, much more player-oriented. Fair enough, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to make the right picks, right? Like, you got to put your money on the table.
More player-oriented than Belichick, for sure.
Yeah.
The thing I like with Vrabel, and this isn't necessarily Bill's fault, but I'm a sucker for him going to the pro days and working out the guys himself.
Oh, yeah.
And it just tells me, there's something that tells me, though, about it is that, like, the trenches, I really trust him. I trust that he's going to work these guys out. I trust that he knows what to look for. I trust that he knows how to scout the position because he played it and played the other side of it. And, like, that's such a big foundation, especially when you have the quarterback figured out. That's such a big foundation of winning football, is being good on the offensive and defensive lines. And I have pretty good confidence that he's going to be able to draft, and not just draft, but also coach up that area of the game. Like, I think that a lot of the guys that they had last year outperformed what we expected, and how much of that was Vrabel's ability to coach them.
I mean, if you're right, it's a great sign. That's, where I think, Evan and I both got to this point where we're like, just protect Drake, and if you're able to protect Drake and you're able to get pass rush, it seems like you're going to have a pretty good foundation. Do you have that confidence, Paul, though?
Doesn't sound like it.
I have a lot of confidence in what Vrabel put together last year. I'll tell you, the things that really impressed me about Mike, the first year that he was here and we got a chance to see him every day, were a couple of things. Number one, just how detail-oriented he was beyond, just
rah-rah
the superficial is what I was going to say, but that's probably a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And the second thing is how in tune he is with offense. I was a little surprised, but everybody says he's a defensive-minded coach, and he is. I would say that that's accurate, but I think he had, a good grasp on what was going on offense as well. So I think he's more of a well-rounded head coach than I kind of envisioned coming in. So I've been impressed with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't get as, I
love it.
I don't get as wrapped up in the physical, stuff that he does. Bill used to go to, before Bill retired, 4 years before he actually got fired, he used to go to the pro days. He used to go to the pro days a lot.
Yeah.
And,
but he
especially at Alabama, he'd be out there running the drills. And now, he didn't lock up with a guy.
Because he couldn't.
Because you don't have to.
No, you go out there, you test his core strength, see if he
core
can move
strength.
people.
If I hear the term core strength one more time.
His grips, does he have, strong hands? Can he reset his hands? Can he move his body? Like, your Vrabel, like...
So are we going to be screwed in like 5 years when he can't do that anymore?
Okay, but like Vrabel, could Vrabel go out and play an entire NFL game right now? Of course not. Could he give him 10 snaps? Probably. So, like, it's not like they're totally, like...
the edge.
It's not like Bill Belichick. Like, they're actually blocking...
He's in tremendous shape.
Yeah, they're
Mike
blocking
Vrabel
a guy
But,
that
like,
is
how
a
much longer?
professional
I mean,
athlete.
he's 50. I mean,
I
how much
know.
longer is he going to be grappling with
know.
21-year-olds?
But I like it.
We didn't even see the footage of him getting tossed around by Will Campbell, too. I guess he hit the deck
God,
on
I
that
need
one.
to
So
see that.
I'm telling you, that stuff catches up with
I
you
would love to
at
go
that age.
on
This is where,
a pro day tour with Mike Vrabel, like as a content pitch.
Snarkier Paul has a line in his head. He's actually going to edit himself.
Oh, that
today,
was
though.
well. You already let one fly. That was pretty good.
I did. When Bill retired 4 years before he got fired.
What are we doing? A draft here? All right, just strange.
When he's
Good.
in like, where was he? The Barbados? Where was he that year?
Mapu. Yeah, Mapu.
Antigua. Got a game here from Wes, and it's kind of fun. But first, I think is a good question. I think, Evan, this is probably for you. Are there any potential draft prospects for the Patriots that, if taken, would instantly be the best player we have at that position?
Oh, if taken, would instantly be the best player.
I mean,
And
you
I'm
might
assuming
you might have to get up above 31 for that.
I'm assuming we're ruling out like the obvious guys like Ruben Bain or something like that, right? I don't know. I think that's tough to say in their range of the draft. I think they're probably not in that position. Maybe if like Jordan Tyson does have a Aaron Rodgers
ridiculous
esque fall and falls to them at 31, you could say he'd be the best receiver.
Is there a specific edge rusher that you think could be better than Harold Landry and Draymond Jones?
Right away?
Yeah, I mean that's a stretch.
No. I mean, like, I think Mesidor and Howell could be better than those guys in the long run for sure. And Mesidor, maybe, I mean, he's like 25, so he's basically already,
he's been around. He
He
started at West Virginia, right?
I think that's true. I lost track of
I think
all
he
the
started at West
transfers and
Virginia
all.
for a few years and then ended up at Miami.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I'm not an old prospect guy. That's not usually my thing. It's the one flag with Mesidor that I have a tough time with.
You're not wrong.
But
I
when
think
you're
NFL
picking-
scouts would agree with you.
When you're picking 31, there's always going to, Howell has the arms, he has the age. Like, there's going to be one thing that's probably you're not going to love about a guy. And age would be that for Mesidor. But I think Mesidor would have a say. He would have a chance.
These ones are kind of questions. Hard to say. Might get into the scheme nerdery of it. Maybe we can avoid that. But
I'll try.
Wes continues. Who of these past Patriots would you start over what we have for the 2026 Pats roster?
These are really hard to do, but I like I like the exercises.
Patrick Chung versus Craig Woodson. Again, very different players,
Yeah.
of course. But Patrick Chung, excellent at what he did. Craig Woodson still growing, but had a great.
It's hard
end
for me
the
to
first
say
season.
that one because
Chung would have to play linebacker.
I would say Chung,
Yeah.
but if you're gonna give me Craig Woodson in the Super Bowl and like he's
Yeah.
ascending to that level,
Yeah.
then I'll stick with Woodson.
I
'Cause
do
he played
wonder
really
if
well in the Super Bowl.
He did, and he's definitely a better fit for what they want to do
Right.
now. But I wonder if the next sort of evolution of the defense is to have some more of that big nickel dime stuff, where like a Patrick Chung type player would be perfect for that kind of role. But I don't know if they feel that that's the missing piece. Like, I don't know if they feel like that's their thing.
Yeah. Brandon LaFell versus Keyshawn Butte. JoJo LaFell. Short time, not a long time. Nice
I
Super
feel like
Bowl.
LaFell was better at his peak, so I'd probably take LaFell.
There's definitely some similarities, though, with the
probably
downfield
more
catch.
consistent too.
Yeah, like 2014
yeah.
LaFell, I feel like was a little bit better.
Yeah, and I would say
Super Bowl
that
slant,
Booty gave you some of the big plays, the wow plays, more so Booty would get the edge. But I think consistency,
Yeah.
LaFell.
Blunt and Dion Lewis or Ramondre and Travion.
I would take Ramondre and Travion.
Yeah, me too.
I think,
No
yeah.
offense to Blunt, who was great.
You're
when he
probably
came
right.
in that one.
I have a soft spot. That's my sweet spot is Blunt and Dion Lewis. So.
Dion Lewis, he was another one, like a
Love
shooting
Dion
star in the night sky. Had like
so
like
good.
7 games where he was like looked amazing.
Burned quickly.
Yeah.
Remember that Houston playoff game? He had like a
return. I always think of the Dallas
3 different ways, right?
The Dallas touchdown he had where he made like 7 guys
went
miss at the
underneath
6
the guy.
and went in.
Yeah.
2 more. Jamie
good play, remember
Collins
that?
versus Robert Spalaniak.
Different players again.
Different players.
Yeah, I would take Spillane.
Yeah.
Definitely more assignment sound.
That's a good way to put it. Malcolm Butler versus Christian Gonzalez. I don't think
come
there's
on.
much of a debate on that.
Don't
one.
do that to
That
Christian
one,
Gonzalez.
that one's definitely Gonzalez.
His last one, he says, is Kyle Williams as of right now a bust, or am I way jumping the gun here?
History would tell you that.
As of right
yes.
now? Yeah.
Bust is such a strong word.
It is a very strong word, and people don't ever want to hear it, and they get really mad if you use it. But
History would tell you that he might not work out.
Yeah,
I don't
mean,
like using the other word.
I do not dismiss the possibility that he could, make the ascension next year. I'm not ruling that out. But the question was based right now.
Yeah.
Like, you got very little out of him last year.
I think the only argument is like, those Steelers teams that like Antonio Brown didn't have the opportunity until some of those other guys started to move on, and maybe you feel that way that with more opportunity, but statistically there's not a lot of precedent for a guy. Would he catch 10 passes last year going from that to
Yeah. What is it? How many catches? 525?
525 club? Got to have 525 plus as a rookie. Those are the guys that go on to have big success.
But the trends are meant to be broken.
Yeah, that's what I'm not dismissing
The
that
other
as a
one, yeah,
possibility.
Devontae Adams, that's the other one everybody
like
always
if you had
points
told
to.
me after the first year that N'Keal Harry, and I would have said no, there's nothing there. There's no there.
Yeah,
At least I can see Kyle Williams running and separating on the
Right,
practice field.
right.
I didn't see that from N'Keal Harry.
No. Yeah.
I was out on N'Keal Harry like 5 practices in.
Yeah.
And, got yelled
Except,
at for it a lot.
Remember the training camp where they kept matching him up against Juwan Williams, and just both of them weren't good. So like N'Keal Harry actually had
Looked
a
okay
decent
versus
camp, and then you realize that it
Juwan.
was because all of his reps were against Juwan Williams.
I like this one from Boston Cream. Knowing what you know now, would you rather have had the 4th pick last year or this year? For fun, let's assume that if you switch, you get 31 last year throughout the round. So I did pull up last year. Jihad Campbell went to the Eagles at 31, but some picks in that area. Josh Connerly, we talked a lot about him. Josh Simmons at 32. Maxwell Hairston by the Bills.
So I would take Josh Simmons and being able to take who at so you would
4th overall.
I would say
you would
that
have 4th overall now, and you could take
Francis Mwaga.
A lot of options.
Yeah, 2 great tackles.
Well, you wouldn't have Campbell, right? So
No, but you'd have Josh Simmons.
oh,
I don't know if he's great.
Well, I would probably draft somebody else.
Well, you could. That would be in play,
Right.
Especially if you think, how do you pronounce? Is it
Mwaga?
Mwaga?
Yeah.
If you think he's that good, all of a sudden you got bookend tackles.
Yeah, I mean he's a good player.
2 young guys.
I would say that the top of last year's draft was maybe a little bit better than the top of this one, but it's close. Neither one of the drafts neither one of these is the 2024 draft, which was loaded.
I thought he was going to ask who would you, if you didn't take Campbell, who would you have
Ted McMillan
taken? Yeah, I think there were a lot of options.
Evans.
I mean, I would have been.
And I'm the biggest Campbell guy. Like I
I know
was
we ended
pounding
up
the table
dropping,
for
but
it.
I would have been all for Tyler Warren too. But that number 4 for a tight end that's pretty high.
It's a little much.
Yep.
Here's one from Brett and Lemonster. First, I got to say, a little disappointed in both Paul and Deuce on the quicksand question last week. The reason kids who grew up in the 60s, 70s, and or 80s had trauma about quicksand was because almost every show had a quicksand episode. There are lists online you can look up of popular shows that had quicksand episodes aimed at our generation. I think we got some of them, Paul. I mean,
So
maybe
what
not
are the
all of
shows?
them.
Because maybe I didn't watch those shows.
Right, like those like Western shows too. I'm sure those were big.
See,
for
I didn't
the-
watch a lot of that.
No,
stuff.
neither did I. I was just mad I missed The Princess Bride because that was a pretty good one. But football question: assume there are 4 players, all ranked exactly the same, literally 4 best players available. What position would you pick? Wide receiver, tackle, edge, or tight end?
Wide
this
receiver,
is
tackle, tight end,
edge.
edge.
I
Yeah.
would probably lean receiver with edge being
Yeah.
like very close. I think that this is the part of this draft that makes it so hard is that I think that's kind of what's happening is like you're drafting at a point of the first round where the talent is leveling off.
Right.
So like you're not going to be picking there at 31, where it's like it's Kenyon Sadiq and then it's a bunch of other guys. Like you're going to be picking at 31 where there's like a cluster of players that are all kind of the same grade on your board, and you just have to kind of decide which position and which player you like a little bit more. I think teams, this is where their advantage really comes into play. They have the medicals. They've met with these kids. They've interviewed these kids. Like they have all of these different ways to kind of break ties. Whereas for people like us, we're just kind of, very amateurly just looking at guys and saying, this is how we feel. It's harder to break those ties. But I think that's exactly what's going to kind of happen, other than maybe tight end. Like tackle, edge, receiver, I think you could see them having like a cluster of 5 or 6 guys that are all kind of the same.
Matt and Devin UK, kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about. I just want to put my name on Paul's poll. I do not want to trade a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. I would give a second and a fourth, but not a first. So Paul will say, so you don't like the player then? I guess not. I don't want to give a first for 2 years max of an aging knee-injured Brown. A couple years ago, yes, I would have. What I would love to see, tell me if this is good and realistic, trade out of the first, trade down a few picks, and around 35 take Zion Young or similar. Then trade up from 65 into the 40s and select Brazzle Dazzle. You get your young edge player and your X of the future. What say you? It Was that right? You don't like the player? You don't think if you're not
So
willing to
no,
give up
I would
first
say
round?
that email is very, very accurate to my mindset. Like when people don't want to pay what it costs for a player, I generally say then you don't really like the player that much. Now that doesn't mean that if this guy is worth a first round pick. Like until someone gives a first round pick,
Right.
like to me, I generally say that like Fred does it all the time. He goes, I'll give him a second, but not a first. But then someone else gives him a first. So, well, the cost of that player was a first. So you didn't really want him. And now those stupid teams, we get back to Patriots fandom of the last 25 years, those stupid teams that pay a first round pick for good players, like they're just being dumb, and that's why they lose. That's what Fred would fall back on. But if you can get A.J. Brown for a second round pick, why give a first if you can get him for a second?
Yeah. I do wonder if that is part of all of this with A.J. Brown. My guess is if the Eagles had an offer they felt good about, he would have already been traded.
Yeah.
And regardless of the June 1st thing.
I totally agree. I think people are fixated on the June 1st thing far too much. I think that's a convenient deadline for them now because they didn't get what they wanted.
Right. So maybe the price isn't going to be a first round pick. The trade that he threw out, I'm typically anti hypothetical trades like that because I think it's very hard to predict things like that. Like, why is a team trading up? Why are they trading back? Like, it's not Madden, right? We can't just force trades, but that is realistically in the ballpark of something that could happen.
What do you call him? Brazzle dazzle?
I just made that up on the spot.
Oh, that was a you-ism?
Yeah, I just made that. Do you remember the candy razzles? Do you ever have those?
Razzles.
They kind of start off
Not
as a
bad.
candy
Little
and then
chalky,
they turn into gum.
Little
Yeah,
chalky,
yeah,
but
not
they
good.
they would come in. They would deliver in the end.
I would love to know what they think of Zion Young.
Yeah,
That's one,
yeah.
He has some off-field issues in his past and some stuff, legal troubles in the past. And that's a guy that's either totally their type or not their type at all. And there's no middle ground of, that really. So I'd like to know if I need to keep him on the big board or not, because maybe they have a red flag on him where he's crossed
Mike,
off.
Evan's wondering,
Yeah.
can I
Just
take this guy off my
blink
big board?
twice.
It's
if you like him.
It's a struggle.
It's probably good that Fred isn't here today, though. There's a lot of pushback on Fred's take on Vinatieri. This is Paul in the Colony saying Fred's take on Vinatieri over Gronk is silly. I'm sorry he's not there to defend himself, but that is the same kind of dumb thinking that kept Belichick out of the Hall of Fame. And Paul is not the first person to point out perhaps that Fred has a double standard for Bill being kept out of the Hall of Fame and how ridiculous that is. But then going ahead and stumping for Vinatieri. The last thing he asked, is there any update on Polk's health? Do you think he'll be contending for a job this summer? Maybe with the Saints, Paul. He was traded last year. Or was he released? Did they release him?
Traded.
They traded him.
Traded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no Jalen Polk. No chance
Not
for
on the
Paul
team.
to kick me around on him anymore. I thought he had a good camp.
I find it amazing. Like, Jalen Polk may as well have been a Patriot 5 years ago.
It feels
and
like
he
it,
was in
doesn't it?
training camp last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah. Well, no, he was hurdle. Wasn't he all
Yeah,
like
he was on
in and out
PUP, I
and-
think, to open camp, and
Right,
then he
and then
came
came
back
in
and he
and
caught a
out.
touchdown.
That was,
and all of you told me how wrong I was.
That was one of those
Not me.
guys, and I did the same thing with Taekwon, and I kick myself for it every time. But I didn't really like him in the draft. And if you remember, my reaction
I
on
didn't
the
like either one of those
on
guys
the
in
draft show was kind of subdued when they picked him.
I remember.
And
then you did the Fred.
but it's not
You
just
came
doing
back
the
the next
Fred.
day and you were like, "Isn't this great?" I know. I'm
It's
not
not
making
just-
fun of you. I've been there 1,000
It's
times.
not just the fandom side of it though. It's also like, well, I'm not actually a scout. So like, if they think that this guy can play, then they have a lot more information and knowledge than I do about this. So they probably could be right and I
Yep.
could be wrong. So you don't have the conviction,
Yeah.
the same thing happened with N'Keal Harry. Like I was like, I'm not going to tell Bill Belichick.
See,
He doesn't
I
know what he's
really
looking
didn't
at.
like N'Keal Harry, but I remember being on this show, and I'm sure people could find clips and throw them in my face and me saying, he's big, strong guy
Right.
on the
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah, yeah.
contested catch. I didn't
he
like
looks
him.
like it.
Yeah.
But you sort of talk yourself into him. And part of it, frankly, is, it is Patriots.com. And, we don't want to sit here and trash the players the team just took. Now, if they don't perform, we're going to tell you they're not performing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't like either one of those. And the other receiver, this is going back a ways, was
Dobson.
Aaron Dobson.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
just was not on board with
All
that pick.
kind
was
of
not on board with
similar.
that.
And
Couldn't get open.
Yeah, but I feel like that Polk was a guy that I was like, I don't know. And then I was, talked myself into it. And then I thought I was with Deuce. I thought he had a solid rookie training camp.
I will say there were some times where Thornton in training camp, and he did this 2 different training camps.
Yeah, because you can't touch him.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I didn't fall in love with the player in training camp, but I did think that he showed some signs of making some plays down the field. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something there. And,
I remember last summer there was a groundswell out of Kansas City about how great Taekwon looked in training camp. And I was like, it's training camp Taekwon.
Yeah,
it's flag football.
Right.
Yep.
Like, he's a guy that runs a 4.2. And you'd
I
have
think he
nobody
found the
hitting him.
niche that he can be in, and with Mahomes' ability,
chucks it up to him.
but and maybe he would have done this with Drake May too. But Mahomes' ability to go out and like make a play out of nothing and throw the ball a country mile, 20 times a year he's going to catch one. Like
Right.
I don't know what he ended up with numbers, but I can't imagine he had any volume.
It wasn't anything crazy, but it was much better than what it
All big
has
plays,
been.
yeah,
Right.
and
yeah.
and like you see them because they're long catches and touchdowns and stuff. So, but he couldn't have had more than 30 catches. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
I wouldn't
When
imagine.
how did they get rid of him? Did they cut him at cutdowns, or did he make it to the end? I'm forgetting exactly.
Yeah, he was on the team for a little while, then he was unhappy, and then he was
Right.
bouncing around.
They
and
cut
then
him,
they
right?
cut him.
Yeah.
It
I
was
think.
like him and who was Bourne. I
Yeah.
think ended up going right at around the time of final cuts.
That's what's been interesting to me to kind of watch, and Mapu's the latest example is, how Vrabel has kind of systematically, slowly moved the old regime guys out, consistently. It wasn't right out of the chute, just everybody's gone. But, even this offseason, you've seen them move on from a couple guys.
It was pretty fast.
I guess I have nothing to compare it to,
I mean,
so I'm not really.
Bentley, Andrews. I mean, there were guys that went right away.
Yeah.
And it's kind of continued.
Yeah.
To
those
even
guys
now,
are a
even to
little
today.
injury. Yeah, right.
I was thinking about it a little bit, and I think what I like about it is that they had their convictions about these players that we kind of knew about it last summer. Tavai, Anthony Jennings, that they didn't. These weren't really their types of players, and they didn't let the success they had last season
Alter
deter
what they
their
thought, yeah.
plan. And I think
19 catches.
Yeah.
19, yeah. How many TDs? He had a few
3.
TDs. Yeah.
He averaged 23 yards a catch on
Yeah.
19 for 438.
Yeah. I can remember like
Three
all of
touchdowns.
them. It's just all Mahomes, like roll out, nobody's open, Taekwon.
Yeah.
But I mean, seeing that though, that's why I'm trying to remember back, because given his skill set and his size, like I just like there wasn't anything there with Drake. Like I'm misremembering, but like on paper, at least with what. Because last summer we weren't thinking of Drake as like an MVP candidate. You're thinking, well, he's going to find his way. But when you look at that receiving core, he really had a kind of a unique set of skills.
I think that the part about Taekwon that is just killer is he was just way overdrafted.
Yeah.
Like if they had drafted Taekwon like early on day 3, because he ran the 4.28, he just got drafted 2-3 rounds ahead of where he was supposed to go. And that draft, that's in my opinion is sort of the takeaway from that 2022 draft is everybody got drafted 2 or 3 rounds ahead of where they should have gone. And so it wasn't that the players were necessarily bad scouts. They should have drafted Cole Strange in the 3rd round instead of in the 1st round. And they should have drafted Taekwon early on day 3 instead of the 2nd round. And if they had done that and they had actually drafted, good players in the 1st and 2nd round instead, then that whole draft, like if Cole Strange was like a 3rd or 4th round pick, then none of us think of it as like this monumental
Right.
bust.
It's just such a mess. What a mess. Like that then you realize you're in kind of this cycle where you can't break out of it, and now you're reaching for needs, and this guy didn't work out, and the other part of it was just nobody really developed over those last few seasons. You didn't really see like guys improve.
That's the part that I don't think gets anywhere near the amount of attention it should, the development part. We'll see if it changes now. Evan made the point about how, these guys played really well, better in a lot of cases last year, better than expected. I put that on the development.
Yeah.
That's not just because the guys are better players than we thought they were. That's because the coaches are getting something out of them. The other thing that I will never forget with the Thornton pick is the 3 receivers that went right after him, and 2 of those 3 guys hit. Pickens and Pierce.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yep.
Sky Moore's the only one that really didn't turn into anything, substantial. That's always going to be there. Yeah. When you pick a guy,
Lad McConkey.
and it's a direct comparison at the same position, and those guys are, productive. That's tough to overcome.
But it just goes back to like these guys don't even know what they're doing. Like, not to say they don't know what they're doing, but like the hit rate in the NFL for the actual scouts that have all the information, have all of the, what their coaches want and need for their, and even still full-time jobs doing nothing but this year-round. People who watch them in person, and they still have misses like this.
It's human beings, right? Like you don't know what's going on between the ears. You don't know what all those different types of things. But I think in that era, Paul made the joke about Bill retiring 4 years before he actually retired or was fired. And
snarky Paul.
It was a little bit snarky, but at the same time, like, I don't know if the coaching staff was putting as much into player development then as it was at different points of the dynasty. Then you get the Gerard Mayo year, which was, no offense, a waste kind of for a lot of player development. And now you have a third coaching staff. So like a lot of these guys have been on 3 different coaching staffs in a period of 3 or 4 years. And it's different systems, it's different languages, it's different expectations, it's different techniques. And so that revolving door starts to affect player development. So hopefully now that they have, Mike Vrabel here for a long period of time and McDaniels is coming back and Zach Core is coming back, you're going to be plugging and playing. You're going to be developing guys again.
Well, Paul said Craig Woodson. I mean, it's just such a great example of a player who played a lot, maybe wasn't really standing out much. I mean, he's out there, but then at the end, you started to see him make plays, and you haven't seen that in recent history.
And I would say, like, there was probably good half of the season I would be like, yeah, Craig Woodson starts every game, but he's a guy who starts. He's not a starter. That wasn't my opinion of him as the season progressed and into the playoffs. He was showing up more and more, and I thought in the postseason he was one of the better defensive players.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed.
For sure. Well, one last question. I don't know if I can answer it in less than a minute, but Mike, do you have any stories about reffing youth hockey games? Any rowdy parents or kids or coaches? Yes.
Save those for Thursday.
I might save those for Thursday when I blew a goal call. I blew a goal call, and I thought this team from New York was gonna call for my head. It was a terrible call. It'll be a tease for Thursday though, so we'll get back to you on that one then. So I think we're gonna wrap it up, guys.
Yeah.
Thank everybody for tuning in. Got Patriots Draft Countdown. It's going to come out tomorrow as well. We're going to record the final segment for that after this. So we're going to taking a look at the offensive line, very important position as we get going here. Just over 2 weeks till the draft. So stick with us. Lots of stuff coming up.
Hey, this is Matisse. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you really want to help us, make sure you like us wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, make sure to follow us on the New England Patriots YouTube channel to see this show and everything else here that we do at the Patriots. Thanks a lot.